are forests all over the world that people seem to be swallowed by, from Hoiubashu Forest in Romania
to the Manchac Swamp in Louisiana, haunted by the elusive rougarou. These are some of the most cursed forests in the world. Enter and you may never come out.
Hoiubashu Forest in Romania is known to be one of the most cursed and haunted forests in the world, which really comes as no surprise when you look at it. The forest is full of twisted and mangled trees that appear to rotate clockwise and provide an eerie setting for some pretty creepy happenings. Many people who have entered the forest claim to have lost track of time, unknowingly spending hours walking through the winding trees before eventually making their way out of the forest. However, some people aren't so lucky. There have been many cases of people entering Hoiubashu and never being seen again, despite numerous search efforts. No one knows the reason, but there are theories. Paranormal activity and extraterrestrial involvement. Many locals from the area claim that the tormented souls of 200 Romanian peasants who were gruesomely killed in the forest remain there to that day. You will know you have come face to face with one when you see the piercing green eyes of a hooded figure staring at you from behind a tree branch. And to make matters worse, these deceased peasants often appear in pairs. And then of course there are the many alleged UFO sightings, which started back in the 1960s when biologist Alexander Swift snapped this photo of a strange light hovering above a completely bare part of the forest. Since then, UFO sightings have become more and more common, but ultimately we have yet to discover why, or if they are really to blame for the strange happenings taking place in Hoiubashu.
Manchac Swamp in Louisiana is said to be teeming with all sorts of dangers, both living and dead. Now, the very real danger of alligators isn't enough to deter you. The swamp, which is about an hour from Louisiana, is also full of spooky tales, like the legend of a voodoo priestess named Julie White, for example. Julie lived in the swamp and was known for casting curses on those who crossed her. She once predicted that a huge disaster would happen when she died, and sure enough, on the day of her funeral in 1915, a massive hurricane struck the area. Her ghost is said to roam the forest to this day, bringing bad fortune to whoever crosses her path. But if physical danger is more your style, you can also look forward to spotting the rougarou, a werewolf-like creature that many have reported seeing lurking through the swamp at night.
Elfin Forest in California is a triple threat when it comes to reasons to avoid it at all costs. Why? Well, because it contains an old refurbished insane asylum that was for some reason converted into a resort. It's allegedly been cursed by the Romani people, and it is said to be home to a bunch of angry Native American spirits. While the asylum is now known as Quest Haven Resort, it was once a pretty sketchy place that used shock therapy, lobotomies, starvation, waterboarding, and forcible restraint as forms of treatment for mental illness. A lot of people died there, and according to some, many of them haven't left either. It is also said that the Romani people cursed the lands before being killed by a rival group of Native Americans. When the Native Americans eventually died, their souls were tied to the forest, and they were forced to spend the rest of their days mournfully roaming the area. Legend has it that if you die in Elfin Forest, you will meet the same fate as the natives, as well as the patients of the asylum, and be forced to spend the rest of your days trying to make friends with some pre-21st century ghosts.
Waco, Texas is home to Cameron Park, said to be one of the creepiest forests in the entire state. There's all kinds of paranormal weirdness here, a haunted set of stairs, a witch's castle. It's a real Grimm's fairy tale type of forest, but Texas style. Jacob's Ladder is this huge, steep set of stairs in the middle of the forest. It's quite the climb, and it offers some pretty amazing views, but you may want to avoid climbing Jacob's Ladder at night, if you're the superstitious type. Or just a safety nut. I mean, I wouldn't want to go into the forest and climb a set of stairs without at least having a flashlight on me, but the stairs are also said to be haunted by a malevolent spirit who tugs at people's clothes, sometimes hard enough to have them tumbling down the stairs to their deaths. There's also a set of crumbling ruins known as the Witch's Castle. The story goes that an old hag lived in the forest, practicing dark magic and concocting poisonous potions that she'd feed to her young kidnapped victims. When the locals discovered the old witch was responsible for their young ones going missing, they formed a mob and burnt her home to the ground. Her vengeful spirit is said to stalk the ruins to this day, chasing away intruders, and some say you can still hear the screams of her victims echoing from the forest late at night. The tomb of Ankh-Amor in Saqqara, like many tombs in the area, is protected by a curse. And this curse is definitely one you don't want to mess with. The inscription in his tomb says, "As for that which anyone might do against this my tomb, the same will be done to his property. I am an excellent priest, knowledgeable in secret spells and all forms of magic, and as for anyone who enters my tomb impure or who does not purify themselves, I shall seize him like a goose and fill him with the fear at seeing ghosts upon the earth." I really like this one. Instead of the gods judging you, he'll be dealing with you himself. And he knows magic, which is pretty scary. He's a mummy wizard. Senenmut was a high priest and the royal advisor to Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs. Some even speculate that they were more than just political partners, that they were also getting it on. While we can't say for sure what their relationship really was, Senenmut was a pretty important guy. After he died, his tomb was built right next to the queen's, and even closer to her pharaoh's tomb. This was a big deal. It was a huge honor to be buried so close to royalty. It's led to some beliefs that Senenmut's status may have had something to do with some behind-the-scenes politics, or maybe something a little more personal. When archaeologists uncovered his tomb, though, they found it in remarkable condition and also uncovered something a little less welcoming, a curse. The inscription on the tomb reads, "His lifetime shall not exist on earth." Not the fanciest curse, but it is blunt. It's quick and to the point. The tomb of Hezi is also located in Saqqara, one of Egypt's most famous burial sites, and it holds the remains of a nobleman from the Old Kingdom. Like many tombs, the hieroglyphic inscriptions on the walls start by telling the story of Hezi's life, and that's an interesting thing to mention. A lot of what we know about high-ranking members of ancient Egyptian society comes from the inscriptions on their tombs. We get to learn a lot about who they were, what they did, but anyway, on to the curse. After the usual biographical stuff, we get a warning which says, "As for anyone who will enter this tomb after he has eaten abominations, or after he has copulated with woman, I will be judged with him in the council of the great God." So this one's a little bit strange. Not only does it threaten those who disturb the tomb, but it also seems to involve Hezi himself in the judgment. Basically, if you've done anything deemed impure before entering, Hezi will be right there facing judgment alongside you. He's kind of playing to like your sympathy a little bit, you know, like don't mess with it. I don't want to get in trouble along with you. You don't want to mess with a curse that involves not just you, but also the guy resting there. I mean, that's not fair. Serenput I was a leader from Elephantine during Egypt's 12th dynasty, and it seems he was serious about protecting the offerings placed in his tomb. To make sure no one messed with the sacred gifts left for the gods, he left probably the most intense warning out of any on this list, saying that anyone thinking about taking anything from the tomb will have their arm cut off, neck twisted off like a bird, his office shall not exist, the position of his son shall not exist, his house shall not exist in Nubia, his tomb shall not exist in the necropolis, his god shall not accept his white bread, his flesh will belong to the fire, his children shall belong to the fire as well, his corpse shall not be to the ground, I shall be against him as a crocodile in the water, as a serpent on earth, and as an enemy in the necropolis. Just a very aggressive message. To put it simply, everything bad you can think of will happen to you if you mess with this tomb. From losing your arm and neck to your entire family line being wiped out, and not just in this life. Now, we couldn't do this list without talking about the most famous ancient Egyptian curse in existence, the so-called Curse of King Tut. The idea of cursed tombs became a well-known thing in the West after the 1922 opening of Tutankhamun's tomb by British archaeologist Howard Carter. It all started with the death of Lord Carnarvon, who funded the excavation. He died shortly after the tomb was opened, reportedly from an infected mosquito bite. But then all these rumors started to spread that it was because of King Tut, that his tomb was cursed, with the media sensationalizing the idea that anyone who disturbed the tomb would face dire consequences. A lot of the curse stories came from all these sensational reports, like one where a cobra symbolizing Egypt's royal power killed Carter's pet canary. People took this as a bad omen that the spirit of Tut was striking down intruders, but most of the curse claims have been debunked. Studies showed that Lord Carnarvon's death was caused by a bacterial infection, not any supernatural forces, And in fact, only a small number of people associated with this tomb's discovery died young or under any unusual circumstances. Carter himself, who was a skeptic of the curse, lived another 17 years, dying of lymphoma in 1939. Most others, like Conran's daughter, Lady Evelyn Herbert, lived long lives well into old age. But it's still a really fun idea and a fun urban legend and story. What do you all think of curses and mummies? Let us know in the comments, and I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.
Leap Castle. The construction of Leap Castle is a subject of significant debate, either occurring in the 13th or the 16th century, but our story begins when the O'Carrolls came to live there. Almost immediately they developed a reputation for frequently killing and imprisoning rivals, and many of the ghosts today are believed to have been former prisoners of the clan. The Red Lady, for instance, is said to be a former prisoner who fell pregnant at the hands of one of the clan members, but allegedly the man who put her in her situation killed the little one, and thus the mother took her own life in distress. It's said she wanders the halls still holding the weapon she used, and some believe that if you get on her bad side, she may just use it on you as well. There's also said to be a mysterious spirit named the Elemental, who is a clan member that died of leprosy and leaves behind a nauseating odor. And most notably, one of the clan members attacked his own brother while he was conducting mass, and ever since the chapel has been known as the Bloody Chapel, haunted by the slain priest. However, the scariest part of the Bloody Chapel is the oubliette. During renovations in the 1900s, workers discovered the oubliette, and when they opened it, they found numerous human skeletons stacked on wooden spikes at the bottom of the shaft. There were so many remains that it required 3 cartloads to get rid of them, and that's not even a fraction of the terrifying entities that are said to haunt this historic site. Moving on to number 9, Laperal House. Built in 1920, the historic Laperal House is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in all of Baguio City. Once the home of the Laperal family, at the height of World War II, terror in the form of Imperial Japanese soldiers overtook the house, taking out the family along with it. It's said during this time as a garrison, many soldiers and civilians alike were killed, and many believe that every last one stays haunting its halls today. However, it's not only ghosts from the war that are said to haunt its halls, but a few of the residents who lived there afterwards as well. Among them is a girl who is said to have been run over by a car, and her nanny who stares out the window mourning the loss. Since then, the estate has served a few purposes, most famously as a museum, while nowadays it apparently serves as a restaurant. However, make no mistake, you are sure to see haunted figures roaming around. Whether it's the creepy young girl and nanny, or the sound of the blood-curdling screams of soldiers, the Laperal House is one terrifying location. Next up at number 8, the Ursuline Convent. In the 1700s, this convent was run by nuns and housed casket girls. Now, casket girls were young women who had come from France to marry colonists and got their name from the casket-shaped boxes containing their belongings they were holding when they arrived. But after their arrival, strange things started happening. The girls started disappearing, and locals declared them to be vampires out to kill them. Now, the 3rd floor had been where they were residing in the convent, but to protect the nuns and other citizens of the town, it was decided the doors would be sealed shut with nails, blessed by the Pope, and no one ever dared set foot on the floor again. That was until 1978, when 2 paranormal investigators wanted some answers to the legend and camped out in front of the convent. As the legend goes, the 2 dozed off during their investigation, and the next morning, the doors that were previously nailed shut had wiggled loose, and the investigators were found dead, torn open and drained of their blood. Moving on to number 7, Suzugamori. Established in
1651, Suzugamori operated as one of the largest execution grounds for 220 years. During this time, it's estimated nearly 100,000 people were killed by the military, most commonly by being beheaded, although they did have some even more gruesome ways to get the job done that drew attention of the town. After the executioner took their big swing, they would let the head of the condemned fall to the ground and leave it there until it was drained of all its blood. From there, it was washed before being put on display for the whole city to see, kind of like a sick warning of what could happen to you if you stepped out of line. Today, it's littered with Buddhist monuments to try and keep the countless souls at bay, but they are no match for the entities that haunt the grounds. Some say that if you take a picture of the well they used to clean the decapitated heads, that the ghosts will show themselves. Just be careful, as they're also known to scream. Moving on to number 6. Point Lookout Lighthouse. Reputed to be America's most haunted lighthouse, much of the notoriety surrounding the Point Lookout Light stems from what happened here during the Civil War. Following the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863, a Union prison camp was established north of this very lighthouse that at one point is said to have housed as many as 20,000 Confederate prisoners of war. Now, out of these 20,000, nearly 4,000 prisoners died due to harsh conditions, limited food rations, and poor shelter from the elements, and their bodies were buried on the site. But although it is no longer open to the public, there have been countless reports of trespassers seeing the ghostly apparitions of Confederate soldiers, and according to reports, the spirits are very angry, seeking out revenge on those who imprisoned them. So, unless you're looking to be terrorized by an angry Confederate soldier, which I have no clue why you'd be looking for that anyways, then this is probably not the best place to pay a visit. Next up at number 5, Poveglia Island. It might be a small dot of land in the Venice Lagoon, but this island is far from a picture-perfect Italian destination. After already losing roughly half of the Venetian population to the Black Death in 1347, by the 1400s, the people of Venice discovered the concept of quarantine and felt that they'd hit a gold mine. So by the time the next outbreaks occurred, they started sending over anyone with even the mildest symptoms to nearby islands, most famously Poveglia Island. The infected populace was forced to remain quarantined on the island for 40 days. But without any actual cure available, pretty much everyone still died, and so it became a mass grave site, incinerating most of the dead bodies so as not to let the disease spread. Later in the 20th century, it became a mental institution, and its reputation only got worse. Allegedly, the experiments performed on the patients were so unethical and cruel that the doctor responsible took his own life to try and escape the crimes he had committed. Others think he was haunted by the thousands of ghosts already haunting the island and ended his life to escape their torments, but either way, it is riddled with terrifying spirits and definitely a scary place to visit.
Next up, we are talking about the House of Death in New York City, New York. They say New York never sleeps, and the same might be true of the apparitions said to roam the infamous House of Death. Standing quietly on West 10th Street in Greenwich Village, this brownstone has garnered an unsettling nickname thanks to countless spooky tales. Some visitors report drifting orbs of light, unexpected cold spots, and fleeting visions in mirrors that vanish as quickly as they appear. The long roster of residents who left under bizarre or distressing circumstances has convinced many that the building harbors a malevolent force. Despite its prime location, rumors suggest no one can truly find peace here, as if the house itself decides who stays and how they leave. Next, we are talking about the Kreischer Mansion in Staten Island, New York. A grand Victorian home on Staten Island, Kreischer Mansion once symbolized prosperity, but soon descended into a spiral of misfortune. Commissioned by a wealthy brickmaker, the property was marked by sudden setbacks that gnawed at the family legacy. Over the years, folks have described unsettling footsteps in vacant hallways and lights flickering at odd intervals. A caretaker's grim confrontation on the premises only deepened beliefs that a powerful darkness clings to the mansion. Though it is privately owned today, local lore insists anyone spending significant time here risks being caught in a cycle of endless turmoil. Next, we are talking about S.K. Pierce Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts. This striking Victorian manor boasts ornate woodwork and an impressive facade, but it's the tales of restless shapes drifting through rooms that truly capture people's attention. Built by a prominent furniture magnate, the home saw a chain of unfortunate incidents that left behind a cloud of mystery. Paranormal investigators talk about furniture moving on its own, doors locking unexpectedly, and voices calling out in empty hallways. The oddest detail is how often people try to renovate or move in, only to find themselves fleeing with unsettling stories and a lingering sense of dread. Rumor says nobody can endure the mansion's atmosphere for long, as if intent on breaking every spirit that dares to settle there. Next, we are talking about the Baker Mansion in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Baker Mansion stands as a classic symbol of both grandeur and heartbreak, thanks to a local legend about a wedding gown that allegedly moves behind glass. A daughter of the original owner never realized her dream of marital bliss, and some say her spirit now roams the halls, reminding guests of a love that went unfulfilled. Clanging sounds late at night and a persistent chill in certain rooms have prompted believers to call this place distinctly haunted. Tour guides joke, somewhat nervously, that the mansion's energies can turn on you if you ignore its history. Those who linger too long often claim they leave feeling weighed down by a sorrow they can't quite explain. Next, we are talking about the Farnsworth House Inn in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. A historic lodging near one of America's most famous battle sites, Farnsworth House Inn has a vibe that feels suspended between past and present. Soldiers reportedly took shelter here during a major conflict, and countless stories describe the spirits of those who never found peace after the fighting ended. Guests have claimed to see figures in old-fashioned uniforms strolling the halls, accompanied by muffled sounds of marching boots. Nighttime can be especially tense, with doors creaking when no one's around, and echoes that defy logical explanation. Many stay a single night for the thrill, but local gossip holds that if the atmosphere latches onto you, moving on unscathed is not guaranteed. And finally, on our list today, we are talking about the Sorrel Weed House in Savannah, Georgia. Few places in Savannah rival the Sorrel Weed House for sheer paranormal reputation, with visitors repeatedly claiming unseen hands brush against them in dimly lit rooms. This stately mansion boasts classic Southern architecture, but it's overshadowed by tales of bitter disputes and unexplained passings. Voices drift through the air in hushed tones, and tour guides say they've heard footsteps follow them, only to find empty halls behind them. Psychic mediums who visited speak of an ominous energy that clings to certain corners, as if unwilling to loosen its grip on anyone who steps foot inside. Rumor has it that once this house sets its sights on you, life might never feel the same again.
One of the creepiest tombs you'll find in Egypt is the tomb of Amenhotep, located in the famous Valley of the Kings. Inside, there's a chilling inscription meant to keep anyone from messing with the tomb, a warning to anyone who dares to disturb the king's resting place. The inscription lays out some pretty terrifying consequences for anyone who tries to steal or disturb it. They'll lose all their earthly wealth, drown at sea, be burnt alive in a fiery furnace, and be cursed to die without any heirs or a proper burial. Not sure what losing all your money really matters if you're gonna drown and somehow die in a fire. But then again, the timeline of these events is an outline, so maybe you'll be poor for years before getting set on fire, then hopping into some water to try and put yourself out, only to suddenly remember that you can't swim. If that's not enough though, the inscription warns that your bones will rot away. Again, improper burial. This was a very big deal in ancient Egypt. The Sheki Abd el-Qurna is an ancient burial site in Thebes, now Luxor, known for its tombs and a decidedly eerie atmosphere. As a necropolis, it's filled with tombs, and a lot of them come with creepy warnings meant to scare off tomb raiders. One of these warnings is found on a stone slab that's now on display at the National Museum of Scotland. The inscription reads, "Watch out not to take a pebble from within it outside. If you find this stone, you shall not transgress against it. Indeed, the gods, since the time of Pre, those who rest in the mountains gain strength every day, even though their pebbles are dragged away." Basically, it's telling anyone who dares to touch or remove even a small little stone from the tomb that they'll anger both the gods and the spirits of the dead and face their wrath. So imagine what would happen if you took a whole mummy. My only question is, what happens if you get a rock in your shoe or something and you just leave without knowing? Does the curse count if you take something away accidentally? "As for all men who shall enter this, my tomb impure, I shall seize his neck like a bird." That's what's said on the mastaba of Katika Akeki. Mastabas are a type of tomb with a flat-roofed structure that were commonly used for burials. In Saqqara, there are over 160 of these tombs, many of which contain mummies. Not every tomb has spooky inscriptions, but some certainly do, messages that make it very clear what happens if you try to loot them. Archaeologists have found colorful hieroglyphics in some of these tombs, and according to a professor from the American University in Cairo, these warnings are serious. Anyone deemed impure who enters one of these tombs is condemned to a punishment from the gods. Part of the inscription on Ikaki's tomb, warning about the gods seizing your neck like a bird, is pretty cut and dry. Mess with the tomb, your life will suck and you'll probably die a brutal, painful death. Enkhtifi was an ancient Egyptian nomarch, which means he was a regional governor, and this was around 2100 BCE. He was also a military commander. He might not have been a full-on pharaoh, but he was still pretty important, and he wasn't about to leave his tomb unprotected. This guy, like many ancient Egyptians, took his afterlife very seriously, and he made sure anyone thinking of messing with his tomb would regret it. On the walls of his tomb, Enkhtifi left a pretty ominous warning. Basically says that if any ruler, or anyone, really disturbed his tomb, they'd be rejected by Hemen, a falcon god associated with the afterlife. Now, if this wasn't enough of a curse, he also declared that the heirs of anyone who tried to loot his tomb would lose their inheritance. So not only would you face the wrath of the gods, but your family would lose everything as well. Now, while this inscription might not have stopped modern day archaeologists from digging up the tomb, it definitely worked on the ancient tomb robbers. The inscription seems to have done its job because there's no sign that anyone dared to loot Enkhtifi's tomb back in the day. The roof collapsed at one point and ended up being fixed in the 20th century, but the damage wasn't caused intentionally, and even then, most of the place is still intact. Harkuf was an ancient Egyptian explorer and governor of Upper Egypt during the 6th dynasty. He made sure to leave behind a pretty ominous warning for anyone who might try to disturb his peace in the afterlife. In his tomb, Harkuf left an inscription that mainly talks about his experiences and hopes for his journey into the afterlife, but then he adds a message for anyone daring enough to step into his tomb. The inscription reads, "As for any man who shall enter into this tomb, I will seize him like a wild fowl. He shall be judged by the great God." Now, at first, might not sound like the scariest curse, but when you dig into ancient Egyptian beliefs, it's actually pretty terrifying, and the age of the pyramids being cursed by the great god was very serious. The great god, often associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife, had the power to condemn a soul for eternity. So being judged negatively by him was pretty much the worst thing that could happen to anyone back then.
Next up, we have the forest surrounding the grand estate at Blickling Hall, also known as the Great Wood, located in England, the birthplace, deathplace, and haunting grounds of Anne Boleyn. On May 19th of 1536, Anne Boleyn was executed after being charged with adultery, treason, and incest. Rather than being burned at the stake, a popular method of execution for women at the time, she was beheaded, as was instructed by her husband, King Henry VIII. On the day of her execution, she gave a speech in which she maintained her innocence, and then, right before the sword came down on her neck, she yelled, "Jesus, receive my soul. O Lord, God have pity on my soul." While some might believe that her final wish was answered and the late former Queen of England's soul now rests cozily in the clouds, most people agree that that's not the case. Probably because they are pretty sure she never actually left the estate and the forest surrounding it. Probably because every year on the anniversary of her death, her headless spirit can be seen riding in from the woods up to the hall on a coach drawn by 4 headless horsemen.
Epping Forest is another spooky English spot. A lot of weird stuff goes on here. For example, if you leave your car parked in neutral on Hangman's Hill, it'll apparently roll uphill. You also have some history here. There's a cave that's said to have been a hiding spot for the notorious Dick Turpin, aka the Highwayman. It's also said that Epping Forest was where he committed one of his killings. Then, of course, there's all the ghost stories. Well, you have Turpin himself, but there are also said to be poltergeists lurking in the forest. One of the last types of spirits you want to come across because, they like to throw things around, and they're just generally kind of aggro. People have reported being pushed and hit by unseen forces in the forest. You also have the ghost of a headless horseman here as well, a ghost who likes dashing in front of cars before vanishing into thin air, and a semi-translucent horse-drawn coach.
Next on our list, we have Kennock Chase Fort, located in Stratfordshire in the UK, which you can probably guess based on the fact that it's in Stratfordshire. And it's also home to the Black-Eyed Woman. Not only that, but it was the death place of 3 other young women who were brutally killed in the forest between the years of 1965 and 1976. So already off to a bad start. But of course it gets worse because there's the matter of the black-eyed young woman who is said to haunt the forest, where you can often hear the cries of the deceased and the sounds of footsteps following close behind you at all times. One visitor to the forest who had not only heard the screams of the forest but also had a particularly memorable run-in with the ghost/demon lady recounted the experience, saying, "I turned around and saw a woman stood behind me, very young, with her hands over her eyes. I asked if she was okay and if she had been the one screaming. She put her arms down by her side and opened her eyes. That's when I saw it. They were completely black. No iris, no white, nothing. And when I looked again, she was gone." It's pretty creepy.
Next up, we have a forest so notorious for its dark paranormal activity that it's been the setting for some classic Grimm's fairy tales like Hansel and Gretel, the Black Forest in Germany. This forest is said to be haunted by witches, werewolves, and ghosts, although the fairy tales may have come first and actually spawned a lot of these legends, I imagine. It's said that the forest is ruled by a king who likes kidnapping women, wandering around alone, and then taking them down to his underwater kingdom where he rules over his legion of nymphs. The Black Forest also has a tale that may have been part of the inspiration for Slender Man. Der Grossman, or the Tall Man, is a dark spirit that's said to lurk in the depths of the forest, a deformed humanoid man with long, multiple arms and legs who stalks youngsters.
And finally, we have the Durning Woods Forest, located just outside of Pluckley Village in Kent, England. Not only is this forest haunted, it's Guinness Book of Records haunted. According to locals, continuous screams can be heard coming from the forest during both the night and the day, which is probably why it's known around town as the Screaming Woods. Pretty straightforward. It is believed that among other entities, the forest is inhabited by the spirit of a colonel who took his own life in the forest back in the 1600s. He has been seen walking around the trees and reaching out to those who visit the area. Other accounts of the area tell of a highwayman, an armed robber who jumps out at hikers there to enjoy nature. Basically, if it's not one thing, it's another, and to be honest, none of it really sounds like that good of a time, but as is with all the forests on this list, I don't recommend you go, but visiting is ultimately up to you. Next up, we have the St. Louis Ghost Train of Saskatchewan, Canada. The train is somewhat of a legend in St. Louis. Not only is it a ghost train, but it runs along ghost tracks. And some locals claim to have seen the lights and heard the sounds of the train at least 50 to 60 times in their life. At one time, the train and the tracks were very real, but both have since been removed from the town. The most popular explanation given by locals for the removal of the train and the tracks is that one night a Canadian National Railway conductor was out examining the train tracks when a train came rushing by and took his head clean off, which is why sometimes the ghostly light of this phantom train shines a bright, deep red. Those who have seen the light describe it as prominent and strong, creeping slowly down the lines of where the old tracks used to be before completely disappearing into the bushes.
The Lincoln funeral train is one of America's most famous ghost train legends. So after President Abraham Lincoln was killed in 1865, a funeral train carried his body on a long journey from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Illinois, where he was to be buried. The train traveled 1,654 miles and stopped in several cities along the way so that people could pay their respects. The train was draped in black cloth and a mourning crepe. It was an ominous reminder of a sad event in a very dark time in American history. Now, the legend goes, though, that on the anniversary of Lincoln's death, the funeral train returns. People say they've seen this eerie train moving silently along the tracks, pulled by a locomotive covered in black and lit by dim, flickering lanterns. Some stories also mention phantom mourners standing by the train and the sound of bells tolling softly in the distance.
Next up, we have the Bostain Bridge ghost train located in Iredell County in North Carolina. The ghost of a real train that on August 27th of 1891 was involved in a fatal railway accident that cost the lives of 23 people. The train had been behind schedule, and so the conductor began picking up speed in an effort to catch up on the delay. But instead of making it on time to the next stop, the train derailed and went flying off the bridge. Now, if that's not enough tragedy for you, in 2010, 119 years later, on the exact day of the incident, a person was killed by a train on that very same bridge. People in the town who frequent the area surrounding the bridge where the tragedy occurred have reported various incidents of the ghost train making its way along the tracks, accompanied by the sounds of moaning and wounded passengers who would have either perished or been badly injured in the incident that gave the bridge its infamy.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana is home to Frenchtown Road, a creepy road that's said to be haunted by ghosts, devil worship, and yes, a phantom train. Running across a section of the wooded road is an old bridge where trains used to pass. This is where most of the paranormal stuff happens. The story goes that back in the day, a train derailed, killing everyone on board, and to this day, on some nights, people can hear the ghostly sounds of a train chugging by, along with phantom whistles. Some will even swear they can see the lights of an oncoming train, which never comes. There have also been sightings of ghostly passengers lurking around the tracks. Another story goes that a school bus had been hit by a train, killing all the youngsters inside, but there's not a whole lot of credible information on that. Along with the phantom train, though, this section of Frenchtown Road is also famous for the creepy cultish activity. People have reported hearing the sounds of chanting coming from the surrounding forest, and satanic symbols are constantly being graffitied on the bridge, which has led to rumors about satanic rituals taking place. Is it just people fooling around, or is there something else going on?
Next up, we have the Republic Ghost Train. Like the Bostain Bridge train, the Republic Ghost Train is the ghost of a very real train that was involved in a very real accident. On January 4th of 1887, an eastbound freight train and a westbound passenger train met head-on on the tracks of Seneca County at alarming speeds. When the trains collided, they were going so fast that their fronts were momentarily lifted off of the tracks before they both came crashing down and began to burn. Flames erupted from the smoker car and soon engulfed the train almost entirely. It is estimated that 22 people died that day, but the true death count remains unknown. Luckily for some, an unknown passenger was able to detach the sleeper car cars located at the back of the train and saved them from being affected by the flames. Although it's been over a century since the accident, many people in the town still claim to see the train making its way over the bridge in the dark of night.
So far, we've only talked about ghost trains on this list, but we're gonna finish off with one that may not be cursed in the traditional sense, but would definitely transport you to a hellish place. The Soviet Union's system of forced labor camps were known as the Gulag. These were not places you wanted to be, but if you were a political descendant or a criminal or perceived enemy of the government in any way, you could land yourself on a train to some remote area to spend your days in a labor camp. Prisoners were crowded into cramped and unsanitary cattle cars with little food or water for the long journeys that could last for weeks or even months. Many prisoners suffered from malnutrition, disease before even arriving at the camps, and once they were there, they committed to grueling labor, often in extreme weather. Many prisoners did not survive the harsh conditions of the Gulag camps, and those who did would suffer with physical and psychological scars for the rest of their lives.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri. Legend persists that once you step through the doors of Lemp Mansion, you're stepping into a swirl of bad luck that just won't let go. This sprawling brick home belonged to a prominent family whose lives took unsettling turns within these walls, fueling talk of a relentless curse. Folks claim to hear phantom footsteps and hushed voices echoing in the corridors, as if past residents are trying to warn newcomers. Some guests insist they've felt an overwhelming sorrow weigh on them the moment they cross the threshold, and for years there's been a rumor that no occupant truly leaves unscathed. Today it operates as a restaurant and inn, but stories of unexplained shadows and strange breezes still keep people on edge. Next, we are talking about the Drish House in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. There's something about the Drish House that refuses to blend into the background, no matter how many times you drive by. Built in the early 1800s, it was once a symbol of Tuscaloosa's elegance, a stately home wrapped in tall columns and framed by sprawling grounds. Yet beneath its graceful appearance lurks a story that locals have passed down in hushed tones. One of the key points of intrigue revolves around a set of candles kept for a significant funeral, which were supposed to be saved for the next time the household found itself in grief. It's said that after the original resident passed, those candles took on a life of their own, casting strange glows in the upper tower windows on random nights and puzzling anyone who ventured close. Over time, rumors about restless figures drifting through darkened rooms turned the Drish House into a magnet for ghost enthusiasts. Many report uneasy feelings just standing near the structure, as though unseen forces are eager to share their unrest. Changing ownership over the years did little to dissolve its mystique, and each new caretaker added fresh tales to the local lore. Certain residents confided they never fully escaped the sense of being watched, even in broad daylight. Doors would swing shut with no explanation, footsteps echoed in hallways emptied of people, and an icy heaviness seemed to grip the air whenever dusk settled. The building itself fell into disrepair at various points, narrowly avoiding demolition thanks to last-minute deals and oddly timed coincidences that some believed weren't coincidences at all. Today it stands partially restored, serving as a silent reminder that not everything can be packed away neatly into history. Next, we are talking about the Summerwind Mansion in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. Perched by a quiet lake, Summerwind Mansion looks picturesque at first glance, but a string of eerie events has given it a fearsome reputation. Financial ruin haunted nearly every person who tried to restore the place, and bizarre sightings only add to the tension. Former residents have whispered about shadowy figures drifting through corridors and unsettling noises in rooms that should be empty. To make things even stranger, the house was struck by lightning before eventually eventually burning down, and many attribute that dramatic end to the so-called Summerwind curse. Although it's now mostly ruins, locals share stories of the mansion's restless energy, warning outsiders to tread carefully or face a fate that's tough to escape. Next, we are talking about Franklin Castle in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland's Franklin Castle might be the most imposing home in the city, complete with turrets, gargoyles, and a history steeped in unexplained sorrow. Hidden passageways and secret rooms have long fascinated visitors, but they also spark rumors of clandestine activities. Over the years, occupants reported a constant sense of being watched, and many owners never seemed to stay for long before packing up under very tense circumstances. Doors that slam on their own and eerie whispering sounds make it feel like the walls themselves hold grudges against anyone who enters. Locals whisper that no household has truly thrived here, claiming the place simply refuses to let happiness grow.
On Monday, August 18th, around 4 a.m., a fisherman witnessed a massive flare light up the night sky off the coast of Sicily. When he went out to see where the distress call was coming from, all he found were cushions and floating planks of wood. He later learned that the distress signal had come from the luxury Bayesian super yacht owned by British millionaire Mike Lynch, who was celebrating winning a 12-year legal battle in which he was accused of fraud. While it was initially believed that the yacht sank in a mere 16 minutes due to sudden bad weather, authorities have begun to think that there is more to the story, and furthermore, that foul play might be involved. Out of the 22 people aboard the vessel, 12 passengers and 10 crew were able to make it onto lifeboats and were later rescued by a nearby sailing boat. The remaining, including Mike Lynch and his lawyer, Chris Marvolia, along with Lynch's daughter Hannah, Ricardo Thomas, Morgan Stanley, and Jonathan Bloomer, perished in the wreck. The investigation of exactly why the ship went down and how it all happened so quickly is still ongoing. While some claim the ship's captain, James Cutfield, to have been driving recklessly at the time the ship sank, the trade union Nautilus, which represents seafarers and captains, said any attempt to question his conduct without the full facts is not only unfair, but also harmful to the process of uncovering the truth and learning any lessons from this tragedy. To make matters even more questionable, just days before the yacht disaster in Italy, Mike Lynch's co-defendant, Stephen Chamberlain, was killed after being hit by a car while running in Cambridgeshire. Officers are urging eyewitnesses to come forward in relation to the incident involving Chamberlain so that they may also determine whether or not foul play was involved in his death. As of right now, there are no plans for the two investigations to intertwine, but as new evidence comes to light, it's entirely possible that they will. In 2003, Ignitis Renewables, a branch of a Lithuanian state-run energy company, stumbled across a 230-foot-long, 20-foot-high shipwreck in waters where less than 20 shipwrecks have been officially registered, while scouting for a place to build their offshore wind farm that ideally would eventually be able to replace approximately 1/4 of Lithuania's electricity demand with green energy. The vessel was located 125 feet below the surface of the water in a portion of the Baltic Sea that had, until Ignitis Renewables came along, never really been studied. After the company published their findings, Lithuanian officials admitted that they had not been aware of the wreck prior to its recent discovery. The company then went on to confirm that no records of the sunken ship had previously been marked in any national databases. They also stated that further historical and archaeological research would be valuable for the country's scientific community and historians in regards to the wreck. Since the discovery, Ignitis Renewables has handed the investigation of the origins of the ship over to experts who will hopefully be able to provide some more details in the near future. In June of this year, 2024, researchers discovered a 3,300-year-old ship at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. The astonishing find was made 90 kilometers, approximately 56 miles from the shore, at a depth of 1.8 kilometers, about 1.1 miles. Aboard the ship were hundreds of intact jars or urns. The remains of the ancient vessel were found during an environmental survey of the seabed by a London-owned natural gas production company, the head of which, Karnit Bahartim, was quoted saying that during the survey, an unusual sight of what seemed to be a large cluster of urns was discovered, a sensational discovery more than any of us could have ever imagined, end quote. After the initial discovery, the urns were extracted from the wreck, which
experts believe would have probably contained oil, wine, and other agricultural products like fruit, indicating that the passage of the ocean where the ship was found was likely used as a maritime trade route back in 1300 BC. As it is the first and earliest shipwreck discovered to date in the deep sea in the eastern Mediterranean, experts are hoping to learn much more about the vessel as the year unfolds. The SS Kamloops was a Canadian lake freighter that belonged to a fleet of Canadian steamship lines that launched back in the 1920s. It sank on December 6 of 1927 in Lake Superior off Isle Royale, Michigan. One person who managed to avoid going down with the ship, a young stewardess named Alice Bettridge, who later perished from exposure, wrote, "I am the last one left alive, freezing and starving to death on the Isle Royale in Lake Superior. I just want mom and dad to know my fate." The message was found the following year stuffed in a bottle. Many others did manage to make it to the shores of Isle Royale, but they all died shortly after, either due to hypothermia or wolf attacks. A number of others went down with the sinking ship, one of which remains to this day inside of the hull of the SS Kamloops, which has since its fall become quite a popular spot for experienced divers. Keyword being experienced, guys, this is a very difficult dive. Old Whitey is the name given to the corpse preserved by the cold temperatures of Lake Superior, which many divers have claimed to have seen following them around the hull of the ship. It's not just a ghost story though. Old Whitey is a real corpse located on the wreck, although he has become rather fragile over the years, and so it is unlikely he will last much longer. The Mars was in its heyday the largest and most powerful vessel in the world. It was a Swedish warship that ran and sank back in the 1500s. For more than 500 years, its location remained unknown until it was discovered back in 2011. During its time at sea, the vessel was equipped with a variety of weapons. I don't know why I did that. A variety of weapons, including cannons created by the melted remains of church bells that had been seized by Eric XIV in an effort to reduce the strength of the Catholic Church. This led to many people believing that the ship was cursed to sink, and as it turns out, those people were correct. Just 10 years after its maiden voyage, the ship went under during a battle with Danish forces, taking around 900 soldiers and a bounty of silver and gold coins along with it. After its rediscovery, the shipwreck became a pretty popular dive spot, with many divers who snuck pieces off the wreck and back up to the surface reporting to have been suddenly struck with a string of particularly bad luck. Today, the wreck remains located 75 meters, 246 feet beneath the surface of the ocean, around 22 kilometers, 14 miles off the coast of New East Åland. You can still visit, but I certainly don't recommend taking anything. The USS Samuel B. Roberts was a John C. Butler class destroyer escort for the United States Navy that was active during the Second World War. The ship went down on October 25th of 1944 after being hit by 3 shells fired from the Japanese battleship Congo, which tore a 12-mile, 40-foot long and 3-mile, 10-foot wide hole in the port side of the ship's aft engine room. It took the ship a total of 30 minutes to sink. 90 crew members perished either inside of the ship or alongside it in the vast waters of the Philippine Sea. For years, the exact location of the wreck remained unknown until the ship was rediscovered on June 22nd of 2022 at a depth of, bear with me, 6,895 meters, 22,621 feet, making it the deepest wreck ever to be identified to date. The wreck was discovered by Victor Vescovo, a Texas businessman who came across the abandoned vessel in his 2-man submarine, The Limiting Factor. After the discovery, Vescovo was quoted describing the battle that ended in the ship's relocation from above to below the ocean, saying, "It was just an extraordinary act of heroism. Those men on both sides were fighting to the death." End quote. Now, prior to that rediscovery of the USS Samuel B. Roberts, the deepest known shipwreck ever found in the ocean was none other than the USS Johnston, which sank during the Battle of Samar after Japanese battleship Yamato fired armor-piercing ammunition at the ship on October 25th of 1944. After the sustained and intense damage, the USS Johnston began to split apart, and eventually the entire thing was dragged down to the depths of Leyte Gulf in the Philippines. The location of the wreck remained unknown for about 77 years until it was eventually rediscovered on March 31st of 2021 at a depth of 21,180 feet or 6,460 meters. For a while, it remained the deepest wreck ever discovered by man, of course, until the more recent discovery of the USS Samuel B. Roberts in 2022, which out-depthed if that's a word, the USS Johnson by 1,441 feet, approximately 439 meters. The SS American Star, originally named the SS America, was built in 1936 by the United States Line. For the next 23 years, the vessel served as one of the fastest passenger ships on the ocean. During the Second World War, the ship was used as a Navy vessel and was renamed the USS West Point. In 1946, it once again became a passenger ship until it was sold in 1964 to the Chandris Group, which renamed it Australis. In 1978, the vessel was sold to Venture Cruises, which renamed the ship America, but later that year it was seized by the United States and sold at auction, repurchased again by the Chandris Group, who refitted the ship and renamed it to Italis. However, 2 years later, in 1980, it was sold to Intercommerce Corporation, who renamed the vessel SS Noga and began renovating it to become a prison ship. However, shortly after renovations began, it was sold to Silver Moon Ferries and renamed, yet again, Alfredos. Eventually, the ship began experiencing mechanical problems and it was sold for scrapping, but in 1993, the ship was saved from scrapping by a company with plans to refit the ship into the hotel. It was then given its final name, the American Star, and it was towed to Trinidad for renovation, except it never made it to Trinidad because a thunderstorm and low tides caused the vessel to run aground and break in two. Talk about a rough go. For many years, the American Star was a go-to spot for divers, but by 2008, the tides had reduced it to nothing more than an unrecognizable pile of steel, and today, nothing more remains than a few broken pieces. The Edmund Fitzgerald took its maiden voyage on the Great Lakes back in June of 1958, and it spent the next 17 years working hard to become one of the most powerful freight carriers in the area. On November 9th of 1975, the vessel departed from Superior, Wisconsin, and attempted to make its way over to Zug Island on the Detroit River while carrying 26,000 tons of taconite pellets. It never made it. The following day, winds of up to 60 miles per hour and waves up to 10 feet, 3 meters high, surrounded the ship. This is when the Edmund Fitzgerald reached out to its convoy partner, the SS Arthurs Anderson, with a distress call. The radio person on the Fitzgerald was heard saying, "Don't let anybody on deck," and that they had lost both of their radars and were taking heavy seas over the deck. In the end, the Fitzgerald went down, taking all 29 crew members with it. The wreck was discovered not long after, on November 14th of 1975 by the US Navy using a remotely operated vehicle, who confirmed that the vessel had in fact broken right into two and it was now lying at the bottom of the lake with its cargo scattered all around it. The first man to visit the wreck was Jean-Michel Cousteau in the 1980s in a submarine. Many expeditions followed, one of which was able to locate the remains of one of the ship's former crewmen. In the 2000s, in an effort to protect the site from looters, both the US and Canada decided to declare the wreck an archaeological site. So unfortunately, if you want to visit, you're going to have to plan ahead and get yourself a permit first.
The Hoia Baciu Forest in Romania has quite the reputation. It's known for a lot of things: ghosts, mysterious disappearances, UFOs, and a section of the woods where nothing grows. It's all pretty ominous. So it's no surprise it's known as one of the most haunted forests in the world, as well as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania. In 1968, a military technician named Emil Barnia had been walking through the forest when he came to an area known as the Clearing, or the Circle. More on the circle in a moment. Now, you noticed something hovering in the sky and snapped this photograph. Genuine UFO? Hoax? Share your thoughts in the comments. This section of forest called the Circle is a bit of a mystery though. Nothing seems to grow there, and on top of that, odd flashes and strobes of light have been reported there for decades. Hoia Baciu is also known for its strange disappearances, most famously the shepherd that the forest is named after, who went missing along with his flock of 200 sheep, and a girl who suddenly vanished and then reappeared years later, having no memory of what had happened to her.
Next on our list today, we have the Freetown Fall River State Forest, located in southeastern Massachusetts and home to claims of UFO sightings and abductions, ghosts, Native American curses, killings, ritual sacrifices, toxic waste dumpings, and mutated animals. You name it, someone's seen it in the Freetown Fall River Forest. I guarantee it. While I don't have the time, nor the resources to prove every single claim made about the creepy plot of land densely packed by lush green trees, I was able to find a report confirming the killing of a young woman in the forest back in 1987 and 3 other individuals in the months that followed, and reports supporting the existence of satanic cult activities taking place there as well. In November of 1978, Mary Lou Arruda was found dead, tied to a tree in the state forest after she had been forcibly taken there by her assailant. In 1980, it was brought to the attention of the authorities that the forest was being used for satanic cult activities, which likely had something to do with the death of Mary Lou. In 1987, a homeless man mistaken for a police officer was killed in the forest, and in 2001, 2 men were found dead after being hit with projectiles fired from a handheld weapon. You guys know what I mean. Reports of hazardous waste dumping, aggressive animals, and even an escaped emu roaming throughout the trees also exist.
In Oxfordshire, England, there's a forest called Witchwood, which is said to be full of ghostly entities. Probably the most famous campfire Witchwood story is the tale of the ghost of Amy. Amy Robsart was the wife of the Earl of Leicester. In 1560, she died after having broken her neck. As for how she broke it, there's some debate about that. Well, years went by and her husband was on a hunting trip in Witchwood Forest, and he saw something he was never expecting to see. It was the reanimated corpse of his wife peering out at him from the trees. The Earl was in utter shock, completely unable to move as this ghoulish corpse of his wife slowly approached him, and she spoke, telling him that in 10 days he would be joining her in the afterlife. Well, not long after the encounter, he fell ill, dying 10 days later. It's said that Amy still haunts the forest, and if you run into her, it means your own death might be near. There are other spirits said to roam Witchwood as well, though. Some will hear the sounds of disembodied cries or feel a tap on their shoulder, only to find out that there's nobody there.
Next up, we have Elfin Forest, located in Escondido, California, home to a refurbished former insane asylum, Native American spirits, and Romani curses. It is said that the Quest Haven Resort, located within the forest, at one time was actually an insane asylum that was not kind to those living within its walls. As we have discussed many times on this channel, asylums back in the day were basically prisons, and not nice ones either. Rumors of shock therapy, forced isolation, forcible restrainment, starvation, waterboarding, and lobotomy taking place within the asylum are far from being in short supply. Many people who stay at the alleged former asylum, which is now a forest retreat, claim to have seen the ghosts of deceased patients roaming the halls of the renovated building. And then of course there are the spirits of the Native Americans who once roamed the land, and the curse of the Romani people who were killed by said Native Americans. And if that's not enough for you, there's more. It's also believed that a very powerful witch once lived and died in the forest, a witch whose spirit many people have claimed to see riding on a black stallion and marking unwanted visitors to the forest with a mark that will allow her to seek them out and kill them should they ever return. So if you are gonna go here, might I recommend doing it just once.
Now we move on to India with Dow Hill Forest. This forest and the surrounding area really is said to be incredibly haunted. For one, you have Dow Hill's Victoria Boys School, where people will see lights turning on and off, along with the sounds of footsteps, even when the place is closed during the winter vacation. The area is also famous for the foreboding sounding Death Road, where local woodcutters have reported seeing the headless apparition of a boy who disappears into the forest. People will also claim to see red eyes peering out of the trees at night and the sounds of footsteps trailing behind them, only to turn around and find the path behind them completely empty.
Hidden within Bear Creek Forest in North Carolina is a small dead patch of land known as the Devil's Tramping Grounds. Here, nothing grows, nor can it. According to locals, any vegetation planted there there will wither and die within days. Furthermore, animals absolutely refuse to enter the circle, which causes compasses to go wacko. Dogs will tuck their tails between their legs and cry when in close range of the circle, and dig their heels into the dirt if their owners try to pull them in, which is mean, by the way. Leave them alone. As for wildlife, they avoid the area completely, like the plague. While there are some people who have attempted to spend the night inside of the Devil's Tramping Grounds, it is said that no one has lasted for more than a couple hours, because shortly after settling in for the night, a person inside of the Devil's Circle begins to experience headaches, muscle aches, and chest pains. It is said that the devil comes out at night to stomp the grounds and scorch the earth, and I guess he enjoys his private time. While many of us have seen depictions of the devil, locals claim that whoever is unlucky enough to gaze upon the true face of this demon will surely go completely insane.
Daring Woods in Kent, England has a pretty uninviting nickname, the Screaming Woods. They're said to be possibly the most haunted woods in all of Britain. The woods got their nickname because of the ghostly screams that people claim to hear emanating from the forest at night. The sounds are so unsettling that they've scared some visitors out of venturing into the woods at all. One of the most famous legends is about a group of villagers who vanished in the woods back in the 18th century. According to the story, the villagers went into the forest one night and were never seen again. Some say their spirits are still lost to this day, eternally wandering the woods in a state of fear and confusion, calling out into the night in desperation. Another creepy tale involves a highwayman who used to rob travelers passing through the woods. He was eventually caught by locals who pinned him to a tree before lobbing off his head. The legend goes that his ghost still haunts the forest, carrying his own head. People have also reported seeing ghostly figures and strange lights flickering between the trees, and on top of all that, the woods are often full of mist, which not only adds some spooky ambiance, it also makes it a lot easier to get lost.
Epping Forest, located in London, England, has somewhat of a dark history. It is believed that a highwayman and Essex gang member Dick Turpin once used the wooded area as a base for criminal activities including the killing of a forest patrolman in the 1730s. It is said that both Turpin and the patrolman now roam the forest. The patrolman mournfully, and Turpin, who was put to death for his crimes, vengefully. Those who enter the forest are immediately hit with an overwhelming sense of dread, which has been known to draw people to a pond located deep within the wooded area. There, many explorers take their final breath before submerging themselves into the murky waters, never to be seen again. And of course, there is a story behind the pull of the pond as well, and it goes like this. According to legend, it all started when a pair of young lovers died there in a voluntary-involuntary killing 300 years ago. Since then, they have driven others to meet the same fate time and time again. If I were you, I'd avoid this one.
The Pine Barrens in New Jersey are said to be the home of one of the most famous cryptids in the United States, the Jersey Devil. And on top of that, a whole swath of other ghosts. But the legend goes that in 1735, a woman named Deborah Leeds was horrified to learn that she was going to give birth. That's because she'd already done it 12 other times. She was not looking forward to doing it again. She came to hate the thing growing inside her, and while finally in labor, screamed out to the heavens, "Let it be the devil," and out of her, a demonic entity came, a hideous creature with the head of a goat and a set of leathery wings, which it unfurled before flying out the window and into the depths of the swamp, only coming out on the occasional night, swooping down from the sky to feed on livestock. Now, similar to the chupacabra, residents have reported spotting a creature matching this description. Farmers have woken up to their chicken coops being raided, and even police have claimed to see a strange winged creature flying through the night sky. So is this just a myth and a legend, or is there some kind of weird cryptid stalking the forest?
Doe Hill Forest in India contains the ghost of a headless man, a road nicknamed Death Road, and an ominous learning institute that is both haunted and cursed. In fact, it's said to be one of the most haunted institutions in all of India. Let's start with the ghosts though. Many people who visit the forest have reported seeing sightings of orbs, hearing disembodied giggles and phantom footsteps, and seeing the body of a headless young man who, when spotted, runs into the trees at top speed and then completely disappears. And then there's Death Road, which is the road that leads from the forest to the learning institution. It's called that because it kind of acts like a road to death, with many of those deaths occurring inside of the institution, and many of the occurrences being unnatural and completely inexplicable. While the institution is still running, I don't know if it should be, it's pretty much abandoned in the summertime. Regardless, the sounds of footsteps can still be heard echoing throughout the building.
Freetown Fall River State Forest in Massachusetts is part of an area known as the Bridgewater Triangle, which is famous for all sorts of supposed paranormal activity. One of the most well-known legends is about the Pukwudgies. So these are small, troll-like creatures from Native American folklore. They're said to be able to appear and disappear at will, cause trouble, and lure people deep into the forest, never to be seen again. There's also the Hokomoke Swamp Monster, a Bigfoot-like creature that's been spotted by a number of witnesses over the years. It's generally described as a large, hairy, ape-like beast. People have also reported hearing strange noises and seeing giant footprints in the forest. The forest also has a dark history with real-life crimes. In the 70s and 80s, a series of brutal killings took place in the area, some of which have never been solved, and some say they're linked to the ghostly apparitions and strange lights coming from the forest. The lights have also been attributed to UFOs. So there's a lot going on in the Bridgewater Triangle. It covers pretty much all your major paranormal food groups, ghosts, cryptids, and UFOs.
Starting off our list today, we have the Silver Pilen Arrow of the Stockholm subway station in Sweden. A shiny ghost train said to haunt the tunnels and pick up unsuspecting passengers at random. The Silver Pilen has been known to stop at random stations at random times and to draw passengers into its train's cars in order to take them to a place called Kimlinge, a real but abandoned subway station known as the Station of the Dead. It is said that those that arrive there are either trapped there for life or that they are stuck there for at least a decade before they are able to somehow find their way back up to the world above. Those who have seen the Silver Pilen Arrow have described it in one of two ways. One, that when the train comes to a stop in front of them, its doors open and its carriages are eerily and completely empty. And two, which is the more creepy one in my opinion, when the doors open, they do so to reveal the ghostly souls of passengers who have been lost to the Station of the Dead.
This next ghostly train seemed to be a dark omen of death. The Phantom Train of Medicine Hat. It's a pretty spooky story. So in June of 1908, a train set out from Medicine Hat, Canadian Pacific Railway Station, bound for Dunmore. On board were engineer Bob Tuhey and fireman Gus Day. Everything was pretty normal until, to their horror, they saw the light of an oncoming train. Now this was a single track, so all they could do was try to stop, but they knew there was no way they were going to stop in time before the train barreled into them. And just as they thought they were about to crash though, they didn't. Somehow the train moved off the tracks and passed along beside them. They watched as people on board on the other train waved to them before it vanished into the night. Tuhey and Day were completely shaken and didn't even discuss what they'd just seen, each thinking that they'd lost their minds. Tuhey was so shaken up that he went and saw a fortune teller who told him that he was going to die within a month. Tuhey decided to take some time off of work. A couple weeks later, Day was on the job, this time with a man named Jay Nicholson, and they both witnessed the Phantom Train again, passing them by as the ghostly passengers waved. Then, on July 8th of 1908, Jay Nicholson boarded the same train he'd operated with Day a few nights earlier. Along with him was fireman H. Thompson. Gus Day had been assigned to yard service, so fortunately he wasn't on the train. Now, as the train approached the location where the Phantom locomotive had been spotted before, another train appeared around the bend. But this time it wasn't just a ghost train, it was an actual train. And at the throttle of this oncoming train was none other than Bob Tuhey, who'd finally returned to work after his time off being a little rattled. And this time the trains did crash, and both engineers, Tuhey and Nicholson, died on impact along with 9 passengers. Bob Tuhey had died just like the fortune teller had predicted.
Now, while this next train won't necessarily take you to an evil location, it might bring you to a bit of a dark place mentally, or make you quit your job. Either one. It's the Phantom Train of Marshall Pass, located in Colorado. The story goes that one night an engineer named Nelson Edwards was maneuvering his train along the tracks in winter when all of a sudden he heard the sound of another train creeping up behind his own, and he saw the train's light behind him. He sped up as the train behind him raced faster and faster and closer until he got to a point on the tracks that required him to stop. He took his chances and hit the brakes, and to his surprise, nothing happened. In fact, the train behind him vanished right into thin air. It was as though it never existed. When Edwards went home that night, he had an eerie feeling, a feeling which only grew after receiving an anonymous note recounting the details of a similar crash that took place just a few years prior. He retired the next day.
The London Underground is full of ghostly urban legends. There are tons of ghosts and supposedly haunted stations, but the Kennington Loop is said to be one of the eeriest sections of the London subway. You do not want to be on the train when it goes through the Kennington Loop. Or if you're like me, then you definitely do, but the point is, there are a lot of spooky stories about this section of the subway. So the Northern Line is a lengthy underground route that runs all the way from the northern outskirts to the southern areas of London. Along this line is the infamous Loop. It's the turnaround point for trains and is completely off limits to passengers. Train operators tend to get pretty spooked here though. First of all, it's a tight loop, so it's a bit tricky to navigate, and there are tons of reports from train drivers hearing strange voices echoing through the empty train. Some drivers will even claim to hear the sound of carriage doors slamming open and shut all by themselves.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Nome, Alaska. The story of Nome is a real-life mystery that blurs the line between fact and fiction. Between 1960 and 2004, about 24 residents of this remote town vanished without a trace, causing a nationwide stir. The situation became so strange and mysterious that in 2009, Universal Pictures released The Fourth Kind, a film inspired by these events, which fueled theories of UFOs, alien abductions, and even a lurking serial killer. Nestled on the southern edge of the Seward Peninsula, Nome is accessible primarily by plane. There are no roads or ferries connecting it to the rest of Alaska. This isolation, combined with its harsh winters where temperatures can plummet between -10 and -55 degrees Fahrenheit, this creates an environment ripe for speculation. Imagine being in a place where the dark skies and frozen landscapes play tricks on the mind, and where venturing out after a few drinks could mean facing the unforgiving elements alone. Nome has been in the spotlight recently thanks to the hit podcast Up and Vanished, whose current season is focusing on the cases of Florence Okpialuk and Joseph Balderas, who both went missing from the Nome region and whose cases currently remain unsolved. If you really want to see just how strange and convoluted these stories of disappearance and subsequent investigations are, this podcast does an amazing job of highlighting the strangeness going on in Nome. In our number 9 spot today, we have Ong's Hat in New Jersey. If you drive down Route 70 East in New Jersey and make a sharp left on Route 72 at 4 Mile Circle, you'll stumble upon Ong's Hat, a deserted village that's become the stuff of legend. Among the many ghost towns scattered throughout the Pine Barrens, Ong's Hat stands out for its eerie tales of disappearances linked to a mysterious portal to another dimension. Back in the late 20th century, this quiet spot allegedly became home of the Moorish Science Ashram, a group of rogue scientists and spiritual seekers. They claimed to have created a device called the Gate, which could transport people to parallel universes. Stories began to circulate about government raids, secret experiments, and residents vanishing without a trace. Was Ong's Hat the site of groundbreaking interdimensional travel, or is it all an elaborate hoax that spiraled into one of the internet's earliest conspiracy theories? Either way, the haunting legacy of Ong's Hat keeps curiosity alive, making it one of the most fascinating and unsettling cursed towns where people keep disappearing. In our number 8 spot today, we have St. Anthony in Newfoundland and Labrador. In the quaint town of St. Anthony, which is ironically named after the patron saint of lost things, a chilling mystery has gripped the community. Over the past few decades, 4 residents vanished without a trace. 47-year-old Mildred Sexton in 2002, 21-year-old Andrew Sexton in 2006, 30-year-old Cleon Smith in 2011, and 38-year-old Jennifer Hillier Penny in 2016. Each disappearance occurring every 4 to 5 years left this tight-knit town of just over 2,200 people on edge. Locals changed their routines, avoiding night walks and sticking to well-lit areas, all while casting suspicious glances over their shoulders. Theories abound, from the possibility of a serial predator to the unforgiving wilderness that surrounds them, but few answers have emerged. The only updates in these cases I was able to find was that of Jennifer Hillier Penny. Unfortunately, just last year, in December of 2023, 7 years after her disappearance, Jennifer's estranged husband Dean was arrested and charged with taking her life. It doesn't appear as if he has made it to trial quite yet, but the RCMP seems pretty confident that their investigation found the right person. As the RCMP continues to investigate these other cases, St. Anthony has joined the unsettling ranks of cursed towns where people keep disappearing, leaving everyone to wonder what or who is behind these unexplained vanishings. In our number 7 spot today, we have Smith Falls, Ontario. Smith Falls in Ontario is a quiet town with about 9,300 folks, but it is buzzing with unease these days. It all kicked off in the fall of 2022 when a 42-year-old man named Lawrence Bertram vanished without a trace. Fast forward a little over a year and another local guy, 34-year-old Robbie Thompson, also goes missing. Robbie was also an acquaintance of Lawrence. Then, just last November 2023, the body of yet another 34-year-old man, Steve Tate, who was friends with the other two, turns up in a ditch along Highway 15 north of town. The police haven't officially linked the cases, but they haven't ruled it out either because this is all just a little too strange and mysterious. With authorities keeping details close to the chest, rumors are running wild. Locals are swapping theories left and right, and the whole situation has people on edge. Apparently, the rumors have been all over Facebook and treated like a quote open secret, but what's bizarre is that if all of these people are claiming to know so many details, why hasn't this been solved yet? The lack of solid information has left everyone craving answers. Is there something darker at play, or is this all just a tragic coincidence? Smith Falls has unwittingly joined the ranks of these eerie towns where people keep disappearing and the community is anxious to get to the bottom of it.
Up first on the list, we have Demon's Alley, a mysterious ghost town in New Jersey. The alley is made up of a handful of abandoned houses located off Route 23 in West Milford. Although there is no official record as to why the homes, which have been around since before anyone can remember, were abandoned in the first place, there are many theories that have speculated the cause. The most popular of which tells the story of a seemingly regular man who moved into the neighborhood, after which strange things began to happen. It appears as though this normal man was actually the leader of a large, very sinister cult. A fact which of course was unbeknownst to his neighbors, who upon receiving an invitation to the man's home happily obliged. It is said that once all of the members of the neighborhood had finally arrived, they were trapped inside to endure nothing short of a horrific tragedy, as members of the man's cult emerged from the shadows and massacred every last one. Our next town is the infamous Roanoke, and unlike Demon Alley, whose residents disappeared without a trace, the story of Roanoke is just slightly more bizarre, as an entire colony, including all of their homes and belongings, are of said to disappear. If you're a horror buff, you might recognize the name from season 6 of American Horror Story, which depicts the town in all its dark and gory glory, but again, that's a TV show, so let's get down to the facts. Roanoke, also known as the town that never was located in what's now known as Dare County in North Carolina. There is much more mystery than information surrounding the disappearance, but it is said that John White, an English artist, discovered the town around 1585, after which he returned back to England. In 1590, however, he made his way back to Roanoke to visit the locals whom he'd befriended on his first voyage, but was absolutely shocked when, upon his arrival, he found the town completely abandoned. Even the houses had disappeared, and in their place, a barrier fort was placed. And one word, Croatoan, was carved into a wooden post. Next up, we have Pine Point, located in the Northwest Territories in Canada. The small lead and zinc mining town that completely vanished in the 1980s, just 25 years after it was originally established in the 1960s. The town came to be as a result of a joint venture between the Government of Canada and the Cominco Mining Company, and was fully equipped with schools and small town businesses. When the Cominco mine officially shut its doors in 1988, the town's erasure began. As buildings were knocked down, residents quickly evacuated until there was nothing left more than the shell of a thing that once was. Now, I can understand Cominco deciding to end its involvement in the town. Perhaps the mines ran out of their precious lead or zinc. Perhaps the mines ran out of their precious lead or zinc that had led to the town's creation in the first place. But to begin knocking down buildings and pushing the town into a void of non-existence? Call me a cynic, but I think there's something more to it. Alright, for this next one, we might be veering slightly off the rails, but bear with me as we discuss the United Kingdom of Torrid. Was it a town that vanished? One that never existed at all? Or perhaps maybe one that did exist or does exist, but in a universe entirely separate from our own? The story begins in July of 1954 in a Japanese airport when a real man by the name of John Allen Kucher Zergis presented a passport in which the agent at the desk had never seen before. In fact, no one had ever seen it before, as the passport had been issued by the United Kingdom of Torrid, which as far as we know doesn't exist. You're probably thinking he was thrown out of the airport and never made his flight, but the strange part is that he had actually just gotten off a flight, his passport having been stamped and checked multiple times before boarding. So what was going on? When questioned, the man insisted that the United Kingdom of Torrid was in fact a real place and demanded someone bring him a map so he could provide some much needed education to the agents. Upon seeing the map, however, he became angry. He pointed to an area on the border between France and Madrid and asked why they would have provided him with a fake map. Police decided it would be best to question the man, and so they put him up in a hotel for the night with the hopes of doing so the next day, his room guarded by 2 officers. However, the next morning, the room was completely empty. The man had vanished along with his passport and any trace of the unknown country. Some people believe this story, the presence of the man and the existence of a legitimate passport issued by what appeared to be a legitimate government, is proof of a parallel universe. But what do you guys think? Share it in the comments and I'll take a look. And next on the list, we have Villa Epicuan in Argentina, a small village on a lake just 6 hours away from the capital, Buenos Aires. The town was created in 1920 when an Englishman saw the land and decided to lease it with the hopes of converting it into a tourist hotspot. He built a resort and paid local scientists to back his claims that the town's lake had healing properties, and all of a sudden, business was booming. Argentinian natives flocked to the area for a chance to experience the waters, along with many Jewish tourists who had found interest in the lake's uncanny similarity to the Dead Sea. While you might be thinking visitors to the town were unfortunate victims of a tourist trap, the mineral-rich lake really did have restorative properties and helped many people with arthritis, skin conditions, and even diabetes. The good fortune did eventually come to an end, however, when in 1985 it started to rain, and rain, and rain some more. So much so that water levels began to rise at a rate of 1 centimeter per hour. And by the end of it all, after 2 weeks of heavy rainfall and a broken dam, the water was 3 meters deep and the town was evacuated. It seems that all the water had given, it had also swiftly taken away. The town remained empty even after the water levels subsided many years later, except for Pablo Novak, age 39, who was born in the town and who remains to this day living in solitude in the ghost of a town that once was. Next on the list we have Varosha Famagusta on the island of Cyprus. Once a booming tourist town, the area is now nothing more than memories and ruins. In the late 1960s, the town had an estimated population of 60,000 individuals, a number which rose significantly in the high season to 100,000 people staying in the town. So, what happened to it? Well, in 1974, Turkey invaded the island country, causing citywide evacuations. The town was left abandoned and frozen in time, as occupants of the area had to flee quickly, leaving behind all of their belongings as if they had just run out to the store, expecting to be back home in no less than 20 minutes. After the attack, however, the town was fenced off from the rest of the island and no one was allowed to return, not even to retrieve items left behind. Because of this, the town still stands today, deserted and eerie, a snapshot in time, untouched for over 50 years. And next we have Hashima, Japan, also known as Battleship Island. So not just a town, but an entire island that became nothing more than a ghost town. The island was discovered about 9 miles, 15 kilometers away from the city of Nagasaki. And in 1810, coal was discovered there, an incredibly valuable resource at the time. In 1887, the island was converted into a mining facility inhabited by over 5,000 individuals, but that didn't last long, as in 1974, petroleum was becoming the preferred power product, and so with coal becoming assumingly obsolete, the mining facility was shut down. Because the mine was the island's only source of infrastructure, its foreclosure led to the departure of the entirety of the town's inhabitants. Today, the island, with its gray buildings and concrete moat, stands abandoned in the sea, closely resembling some kind of island battleship hybrid, hence its fitting nickname, Battleship Island. Next up we have Bodie, California, another town frozen in time. In 1877, Bodie and its massive gold mine became the place to be for those hoping to make it rich, which honestly was not a bad move, as the town did produce more than $38 million worth of gold and silver during its approximately 5-year run. When the town was no longer lucrative, the residents began to slowly depart, moving on to bigger and better financial opportunities. By 1915, the area was considered a literal ghost town, believed to be haunted by past members of the community. Today, it stands abandoned, with stores and homes fully stocked and forgotten, a symbol of the late 1980s American history. Starting off our top 2, we have Centralia, Pennsylvania, aka the town on fire. The town was abandoned in 1982, 20 years after an underground fire had broken out in one of the coal mines that ran beneath it, a fire that still burns to this day. Of course, as you can imagine, living in a town that is essentially burning from the ground up is not ideal, but for some reason no major concern was raised until 1979, when a local gas station owner noticed that the temperature of the gas being stored in underground tanks had reached a temperature of 77 degrees Celsius, 172 degrees Fahrenheit. And even still, little movement was made out of the town at this time. It wasn't until 1982, when a sinkhole opened up in a local resident's backyard, that people started to realize the true gravity of the situation. Not only did a young boy fall into the sinkhole, which he did survive by the way, the massive opening in the earth was spewing out lethal amounts of carbon monoxide gas. It was, finally, at this point that Congress voted to fund the relocation of all the townspeople. But believe it or not, underground fires, possible gas explosions, and lethal exposure still wasn't enough to convince some of the residents to leave their home, meaning there are still an incredibly stubborn few who still reside in Centralia to this day. That's wild. And finally, because I appreciate you all so much, we've got a 3-for-1. The disappearance of Louisiana towns Ruddock, Wangram, and Frenier in 1915. The trio, located on the southwest edge of Lake Pontchartrain, were major hotspots of immigration for German cabbage farmers, if you can believe it. The towns met their end on September 19th when a massive hurricane moved in from the Caribbean with surges of 13 feet and 125-mile-per-hour winds. On that day, the towns were completely washed away and over 300 lives were lost. While this is tragic, it's also scientifically explainable. But what isn't is the way that the storm and the many fatalities had been been foretold. Records of the town, corresponding with records of voodoo priestesses, recall a woman by the name of Julia Brown, who served as a local healer. She was also quite the entertainer, spending her evenings sitting on her front porch, playing her guitar and singing made-up songs. But as she neared the end of her life, things began to take a sinister turn. Songs which once illustrated beauty and joy had been replaced by a tune of warning, as the woman sang that one day she would die and everything would die with her. Eventually, Julia did pass, and her funeral was held on October 2nd of 1915, the very day the storm rolled into town.
Starting off this countdown, we have the man from 2236. So apparently there are a number of time travelers on TikTok. One of them being a person that goes by the username @RealTikTokTimeTraveler. And they have to be a real time traveler because they have real in their username. Anyways, they have a number of eerie predictions. One of them being that in September of 2022, a celebrity that is dead is going to come back to life. Sort of. Apparently this celebrity faked his death, so by September it will be revealed that he is still alive. Now this got many people thinking. They think it could be anyone from Tupac to Michael Jackson, even XXXTentacion. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if this comes true. And if it is true, who do you think it is? Moving on to number 8, we have the aliens. Now, a number of time travelers claim that soon our world will be taken over by aliens. Let's take a look at TikToker Aesthetic Time Warper, for example. He has shared a number of videos saying that he is a time traveler from the year 2714. And last year he made a prediction that on September 11th of 2022, he says, and I quote, "An alien takes 4,000 skilled workers and children to the planet Proxima b as a result of another hostile species coming here." But that did not come true. Unless it did come true and we just didn't know that people went missing. Like the aliens wiped our memory of them or something, who knows. Moving on to number 7, we have the alien civilization. So the alien predictions don't stop there. A different self-proclaimed time traveler claims that by August of 2022, an alien civilization will be discovered on Earth. Apparently there is an underground alien race living on Earth, and in 4 months they are going to make themselves known to us. In fact, August 2nd is the exact date that they shared with the world. So, on August 2nd, get ready for alien life to be exposed once and for all. My only hope is that if this is real, that the aliens are chill. I mean, if they've been living underground for all this time, like, why haven't they made their presence known earlier? I'm a little scared to find out why. Coming in at number 6, we have the volcano eruption. So what I'm learning from this video is that 2022 is going to be one hell of a year, because not only are we encountering aliens, but we will be faced with a series of volcanic eruptions. Maybe the aliens are coming to our rescue. Now, good news. One of the time travelers said a volcano eruption would occur on March 15th. And that date has passed, and no volcano has erupted, thank gosh. But they also said that one is going to occur on June 22nd, so hopefully they'll be wrong about that one as well. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the war. Another time traveler believes that in 2022 a war will break out between the US and North Korea. They said it would start on March 22nd, which thankfully it did not happen. So hopefully they were just full of crap and making all this stuff up. But I will say, this prediction conveniently released when North Korea was caught test firing a number of missiles. And then Kim Jong-un told military officials to be ready to mobilize troops, so help me. If there's a World War III, I'm done. I can't handle it. But like I said, this prediction was false as we are now in April, so hopefully it just never comes true. In our 4th spot, we have the sea levels rising. Global warming is a very serious issue. At this point, scientists have predicted that in a couple of years, major cities will be underwater. Well, a time traveler who goes by the name Edward claims that he got sent to the future. So according to Edward, he was part of a top secret experiment that took place in 2004. During the test, he was successfully transported in time. He was taken to LA 5,000 years in the future. And it's not looking too good. He said, and I quote, "I was standing on a huge wooden platform, and after I realized it was the same city, Los Angeles, but underwater." This man's claims were actually backed up with evidence, as he took a photo of LA underwater. Good thing he packed his underwater camera with him. I don't know. But the image is pretty blurry, but it appears to be an aerial view of LA underwater. At least we won't be around in 5,000 years. In our third spot today, we have more aliens. So another self-proclaimed time traveler who goes by the name Noah also had a prediction about aliens. Noah claims that he is from the year 2030 and he got sent back in time to 2018. He then decided to share what life is like in 2030. And according to him, by 2030, the government will reveal that time travel is real and we will encounter alien beings. Honestly, all these time travelers contradict themselves, so I doubt that this is real, okay? Again, unless these aliens are friendly. Like, if they're chill, then that's cool by me. In our second spot, we have the massive sea creature. By now, you should realize just how massive and mysterious the ocean is. I mean, we've done a million videos on the ocean, but still, only 5% of the ocean has been discovered. In fact, scientists predict that there are anywhere from a few 100,000 to more than 10 million undiscovered sea creatures. But by September 17th, 2022, we could discover one of these creatures. This time traveler claims that on that date, the largest creature to date will be found in the ocean, the Kieran Cronan, which is a large sea creature in Scottish Gaelic folklore. This beast is so large that it once ate 7 whales in one go. It is over 4 times the size of a blue whale. And not only that, it can disguise itself as a smaller fish to fool fishermen. So they're like, oh yeah, look at the fish I caught, and then all of a sudden, this beast emerges and swallows the fisherman right up. So maybe everyone should avoid fishing in any large bodies of water on September 17th. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the human chimpanzee. For those of you that haven't heard, a number of scientists have been doing experiments on chimps to try and make a human-chimp hybrid, aka the humanzee. And maybe scientists have succeeded. On September 26 of 2021, a time traveler revealed that a chimp gained the power to talk as scientists successfully managed to mutate its vocal cords. The scariest part is that it said that the chimp had some mysterious things to say. But again, this time has come and gone, and I haven't heard anything about a talking chimp. So either it has happened and the government is just hiding it, or it's false news. But I will say, it won't surprise me if this prediction does come true in the future.
Number 10. John Travolta. John Travolta is an American actor. He came to public attention during the 1970s, appearing on the television sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter, and starring in the box office success Carrie. He has many accolades as he's won a Golden Globe Award and been nominated for 6, been nominated for 2 Academy Awards, and has a Primetime Emmy Award. He's best known for his roles in Grease, Pulp Fiction, and Saturday Night Lights. This photo, dated over 150 years ago, surfaced at an online auction a few years ago with an asking price of around $50,000. Notice anything? It looks exactly like John. The seller, a woman identifying as Fawn, was surprised by the commotion it caused as potential buyers were surprised by its resemblance to John. Fawn said most people were curious or just thought the photo was fake or that I was weird. It's a really cool photograph, but I never thought it would cause this sort of hoopla funny. It truly does look like him though, you can't deny it. Number 9. Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is an American actor and film producer who is the recipient of various accolades, including an Academy Award, a Screen Actors Guild Award, and a Golden Globe Award. He's best known for his films Ghost Rider, National Treasure, and Con Air. This photo of an unnamed Tennessee man taken during the Civil War looks exactly like Nicolas Cage. A lot. You can't tell me that's not Nicolas Cage. The seller, who has put the image at a starting price at $1 million, says the photo is 100% genuine and was taken of a man who lived in Bristol, Tennessee around the time of the Civil War. These two men look so much alike that the internet community was convinced that Nicolas may actually be an immortal vampire. He heard about this accusation and addressed the issue in a David Letterman interview saying, "Now look, I don't drink blood, and the last time I looked in the mirror I had a reflection, so I'm not
going with his vampire theory. Now, I'm not sure if he's telling the truth though, I definitely think he's a vampire. Number 8. Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin is an American actor, comedian, and producer. He's best known for his roles in 30 Rock, Beetlejuice, and My Sister's Keeper. Alex looks very similar to the 13th President of the United States, Millard Fillmore. They also share many similarities as they were both born in New York to affluent, well-connected families. The difference between them? Oh, about 160 years. Millard was the 13th President of the United States, serving from 1850 to 1853, the last to be a member of the Whig Party while in the White House. A former member of U.S. House of Representatives from upstate New York, Millard was elected as the 12th Vice President in 1848 and succeeded to the presidency in July 1950 upon the death of U.S. President Zachary Taylor. Now, was Alec the president in past life? No one knows except for him. Number 7. Orlando Bloom. Orlando Bloom is an English actor. He made his breakthrough in the Lord of the Rings film series, The Fellowship of the Ring. He's best known for his roles in Carnival Row and the Pirates of the Caribbean films. He has a very strong resemblance to Nicolae Grigorescu, who was an influential 19th century Romanian painter. Nicolae was one of the founders of modern Romanian painting. He was born in 1838 and passed away in 1907. Between 1856 and 1857, he painted the Church of the Zamfira Monastery, Prahova County, and in 1861 the Church of the Agapia Monastery. Seems like in this life, Orlando wanted to be more in front of the camera and be the art instead of creating it like he did in the 1800s, but you can't deny that these two look extremely similar. Number 6. Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence is an actress who was the world's highest paid actress in 2015 and 2016. She appeared in Time's 100 Most Influential People in the World list in 2013 and on the Forbes Celebrity 100 list from 2013 to 2016. She has many accolades including an Oscar, 3 Golden Globe Awards, 6 People's Choice Awards, and 7 MTV Movie Awards. She's best known for her roles in Silver Linings Playbook, Don't Look Up, and the Hunger Games films. Now, Jennifer looks very similar to famous Egyptian actress Zubaida Tharwar. Zubaida was an Egyptian film, stage, and television actress who was known for the most beautiful eyes in classic Egyptian cinema. She was known for movies such as The Guilty, The Other Man, and There Is a Man in Our House. With both of them being famous actresses, I can totally see them being the same person. Number 5. Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is an American comedian, television host, actor, writer, and singer. He's best known for his work in television, and his breakthrough came during his tenure as a cast member on the NBC sketch comedy series Saturday Night Live from 1998 to 2004. He then became the host of the late night talk show Late Night with Jimmy Fallon from 2009 to 2014 and became the anchor of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon following his departure from late night. In addition to his television work, he has released 2 comedy albums and 7 books, mainly aimed at children. Now, Jimmy looks exactly like Mahir Chiran. If I were to put a mustache on Jimmy, they would be the exact same. Mahir was a Turkish Marcus Leninist revolutionary who was born in 1946 and was executed in 1972. Jimmy Fallon was born in 1974, with a 2-year difference between the two. Think about it. Could it be a coincidence? Maybe, but it could also be reincarnation. Couldn't it? I think so. Number 4. Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage is an American film, television, and stage actor. He received international recognition for being on the HBO television series Game of Thrones. Due to this, he won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, a record of 4 times. He also received a Golden Globe Award in 2011 and a Screen Actors Guild Award in 2020 for the role. Now, Peter has a common form of dwarfism known as achondroplasia, as he stands 4 feet and 5 inches tall, and due to this he has used his celebrity status to raise social awareness. Now, it seems like Peter looks exactly like this man from this painting, the portrait of Sebastian de Mora. The painting is by Diego Velázquez of Sebastian de Mora, a court dwarf and jester at the court of Philip IV of Spain. It was painted around 1644 and is now in the Prado in Madrid. They look exactly the same, but the fact that they both have dwarfism is crazy to me. They are truly the same
person. Number 3. Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien is an American television host, comedian, writer, and producer. He's best known for having hosted late-night talk shows for almost 28 years, beginning with The Late Night Show with Conan O'Brien and The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien on the NBC television network and Conan on the cable channel TBS. Now, before his hosting career, he was a writer for the NBC sketch comedy series Saturday Night Live from 1988 to 1991 and the Fox animated sitcom The Simpsons from 1991 to 1993. He has also been the host of the podcast series Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend since 2018 and is expected to launch a new show on HBO Max. He looks exactly like Marshall H. Twitchell in this photo. Marshall was born in 1840 and passed away in 1905. He was a teacher, officer in the Union Army, and a businessman. Originally from Vermont, he became a prominent political figure in Louisiana's post-war Reconstruction, including 2 terms as a Republican member of the Louisiana State Senate. After the war, he returned north, served as a diplomat in Canada, and wrote a memoir. I truly think this was Conan in a past life. Number 2. Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is an American businessman and internet entrepreneur. He's known for co-founding the social media website Facebook and its parent company Meta Platforms, which he is the chairman, chief executive officer, and controlling shareholder. In 2007, at age 23, he became the world's youngest self-made billionaire. He has used his funds to organize multiple charities, including the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Since 2008, Time magazine has named Mark among the 100 most influential people in the world as a part of its Person of the Year award. In the Forbes 400 list of wealthiest Americans in 2022, he was ranked 11th with a wealth of $57.7 billion. As of February 2023, his net worth was $68.6 billion, according to the Forbes Real-Time Billionaires, making him the 16th richest person in the world. Now, with all of this money, is it possible that he could time travel? Yes, 100%. And he looks exactly like Philip IV, also called the Planet King. He was the king of Spain from 1621 to his death in 1640, and he's remembered for his patronage of the arts. Why not go from being a king of a country to a king of the internet and metaverse? This seems like something Mark would do. And coming in at number 1 is Adam Schulman and Anne Hathaway. Adam Schulman is an actor and producer known for Seesaw Monster, The Shower, and Song 1. He married his wife Anne Hathaway in 2012. Now, Anne is an American actress and is the recipient of various accolades, including an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and a Primetime Emmy Award. She was among the world's highest paid actresses in 2015 and is best known for her roles in The Devil Wears Prada, Les Miserables, and The Princess Diaries. Now, does the name Anne Hathaway sound familiar? Everyone's heard of William Shakespeare. What you probably don't know about the famous English playwright is that he had a wife named Anne Hathaway. But that's not the scary part. Adam looks exactly like William Shakespeare. Perhaps him and his wife came back for some unfinished business and to provide the world with more art. Everyone on the internet believes this, as people say they came back for each other, eternal lovers, and history hath a way of repeating itself. Another wrote, immortals must hate all of us for exposing them online, lol, and one fan claimed Shakespeare made a deal with his wife, I get to be famous in this life and you get to be famous in the next. I truly believe this, the resemblance is uncanny.
Moving on to number 4. Sarah Winchester's mansion. As the story goes, in 1881, Sarah lost her husband to tuberculosis, and in her grief sought out a spiritualist in hopes they could help her contact her husband to help overcome this tragedy. But instead of getting the solace and closure she was looking for, she received an ominous warning that sent her off the deep end. You see, her late husband's family had created the notorious Winchester rifle. That became known as the gun that won the West, which meant that thousands had died due to their creation of that weapon. So when they reached her late husband in the beyond, he warned Sarah that all their lives' tragedies were a result of the blood money earned from the evil weapon. Next, he explained that spirits were coming after her with a vengeance, and she needed to build a home for herself to protect against them. But there was one catch. she could never stop building. If she stopped construction, she would die. Sarah took this omen incredibly seriously and began constructing on her property immediately, turning her mansion into a topsy-turvy maze, believing it would confuse any spirits who tried to enter and harm her. There are staircases that lead to nowhere, trapdoors, skylights on the floor, doors that open to walls, and even a door that opens to a 2-story drop. With all that, it's said that ghosts really did get trapped inside, and now, unable to leave, get madder and madder with each passing day. And many have reported seeing apparitions, voices, and footsteps while visiting. Moving on to our number 3, La Laurie Mansion. One of the most infamous buildings in all of Louisiana, La Laurie Mansion was once home to the cruel and evil Madame Delphine La Laurie, who even in her time was regarded as a monster and was known to have her slaves taken from her regularly due to their outrageous mistreatment. In 1834, a fire broke out in her mansion, and when police and fire marshals arrived at the site, they found one of her slaves chained to the stove, claiming to have started the fire to try and take her own life to escape the cruelty. Next, they found another 7 victims in her attic, suspended from the ceiling, mutilated and barely alive, stating to have been imprisoned here for months. Once news broke out of her cruelties, citizens attacked the house and demolished everything they could. While the original building no longer stands, the grounds it stood on are some of the most haunted in all of Louisiana, as it is believed nearly 100 people lost their lives under Madame Delphine's cruel torment. Visitors have reported feeling the violent touches of ghostly hands, and a medium that visited stated that a very dark demonic entity resides within the building's walls. Moving on to number 2, Kuldara. Once upon a time, the village of Kuldara was booming with residents, but these days it's considered as one of the most haunted locations in India. And of course, just like any good ghost town, it's got a good ghost story to match. According to the legend, Kuldara village was once home to a very wealthy community of people called the Palival Brahmins. However, among them was also a minister and ruler named Salim Singh. Now, legend has it that Singh had fallen in love with one of the villagers' daughters, but let's just say she wasn't exactly an appropriate choice as far as the Palivals were concerned. This pushback didn't seem to deter the ruler, who then told his guards to fetch her at once from the village using any force necessary. But when the guards arrived at the village, the Palival convinced them to return in the morning and that they would hand over the girl then. However, when the guards returned in the morning, the entire village was gone. It's said the village escaped in the night, leaving nothing behind but a curse, and it has remained abandoned ever since. Today it's said to be haunted by the ghost of the evil sultan, and some locals even claim that merely stepping on the property can curse you for eternity. And last up in our number 1 spot, Obvodny Canal. Officially the longest artificial canal in St. Petersburg, the Obvodny Canal once served as the southern border to the city. While today it no longer serves such a purpose, it is still a huge landmark, but not necessarily for good reason. Tragically, despite not being very deep, this location happens to be a place where many have taken their own lives. The phenomenon began as far back as construction, when workers who were digging the grounds for the canal would routinely complain of debilitating headaches or suddenly become ill with previously non-existent health conditions. Workers even began turning violent towards each other, seemingly out of nowhere. But still, they were ordered to finish construction no matter what. Then in the 1920s, granite tombs were discovered when the government began building a road beside the canal. Archaeologists were not permitted to study these mysterious tombs. Instead, they were destroyed and construction continued. By 1923, the rate at which people were dying in the canal began to skyrocket, and it became common knowledge to stay away. The few that have been saved from jumping in say that they had no intention to take their own lives prior to walking past the canal, and that simply an invisible force pushed them to do it. Others say they looked down from the bridge to see the corpse of a woman in white floating face up just beneath the surface. But as soon as they tried to call for help, she would disappear without a trace. To this day, people are warned to never stare into the murky waters in fear that whatever evil spirits lie below will bring them down with them.
With Centralia in Pennsylvania, this is a town that's more eerie than it is mysterious due to a long burning underground coal mine mine fire that started in 1962 and continues to smolder to this very day. Once a thriving coal mining community, Centralia is now a nearly deserted place with cracked, smoke-emitting streets that seem to belong to a post-apocalyptic kind of world. Seriously, just look at some of these images. That is freaky. There's graffiti everywhere. There's these large cracks in roads with smoke that just constantly is billowing out of it like it's just been hit with a blast from an alien ship or something. The fire, which ignited in the coal mines beneath the town, led to widespread evacuations over the years. Homes were abandoned and the population dwindled as toxic gases and unstable ground made the town pretty inhospitable. What's left is a place where steam rises from the ground and graffiti-covered highways lead to empty streets. Number 9, Bodie, California. If you've ever wanted to hop into a time machine and visit a gold rush era town, then this place is for you. Only you won't find any people there anymore, but the homes and buildings are still standing. Nestled up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, this is a real deal ghost town that's been frozen in time. Walking down its quiet streets with old wooden buildings on either side of you, you can almost feel the history oozing out of the place. But Bodie isn't just about history, it's also said to have this strange vibe going on, even for a ghost town. A lot of folks who visit swear they've felt some ghostly stuff happening here. Nowadays, it's a state park, and they're careful to keep things looking just like they did back when everyone packed up and left town. So as you wander around, you're basically walking through a time capsule. Pretty cool. Next up, we have La Noria in Chile. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, this place was a buzzing salt pepper mining town filled with life and industry. But as time went on, the demand for salt pepper declined, and by the mid 20th century, La Noria was left abandoned. Now, when you visit La Noria, you'll find it frozen in time. The town's buildings have decayed though, but what makes this ghost town especially creepy is all the bones. More on that in a minute. Walking through the deserted streets, you can't escape the feeling of stepping back in time when La Noria was a thriving hub of activity. The place is also very isolated. It's in the middle of the desert, so that definitely adds another layer of spookiness to the place. But as stated before, one of the most haunting aspects of this place is the old cemetery and all the damn human bones. Here you'll find open coffins, some still housing human remains. Over the years, the ghost town was looted, so bones are scattered everywhere, pretty unsettling. It's said that you should never wander to this town at night, as the tortured souls of the dead rise from their graves and wander about. In at number 7, we have Hashima Island. Hashima Island, often referred to as Battleship Island due to its distinctive shape, is located off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan. This island played a vital role during the early 20th century as a coal mining community. Housed a substantial population of miners and their families in high-rise concrete apartment buildings. As the coal industry declined though, Hashima Island saw a gradual depletion of its inhabitants, leading to its ultimate abandonment by the 1970s. And today, it's a time capsule offering a direct look into its past. The island's concrete structures still stand today, although they've been exposed to decades of coastal elements. There's abandoned apartments, schools, and shops that remain untouched. It's pretty eerie. Next on the list is Oradour-sur-Glane in France. Oradour-sur-Glane, a village in France, holds a very dark and tragic history from World War II. Back in 1944, during the chaos that was the Second World War, the quiet village became the site of a brutal massacre by German troops. It's a very heartbreaking story where German soldiers laid waste to the entire village, not even sparing women and children. They left the village in complete ruin, and these were mostly civilians. They would herd them into churches and set them on fire, gunning down anyone who attempted to escape through the windows. It was just a complete massacre. Only 6 members of the village actually managed to escape. The village was never rebuilt either. The remains still stand today though, just frozen in time, like left exactly as it was when these horrors unfolded. The streets, buildings, and even the vehicles remain as they were, showing the signs of violence that took place there. As you can probably imagine, the place is eerily quiet. There's no one living there, and the usual sounds of daily life are completely missing. Number 5, Mount Sinabung, Indonesia. Mount Sinabung in Indonesia. This is something that is still ongoing. It's a series of volcanic eruptions that have led to the evacuation of villages in the surrounding area of the volcano. Mount Sinabung, located in North Sumatra, has been active for centuries, but in recent years it's become particularly volatile, and the eruptions have posed a significant threat to the communities living in the vicinity of it. When Sinabung starts to rumble and spew ash and lava, local authorities kick into action. They closely monitor the volcano's activity and issue evacuation orders when necessary to ensure the safety of the residents, and these orders are not taken lightly, as volcanic eruptions can be unpredictable and of course deadly. The process of evacuating towns and villages near the volcano is pretty challenging. Families leave their homes behind, their possessions, and sometimes even their livelihoods. Temporary shelters are set up to provide a safe haven for those displaced by the eruptions, and these shelters offer basic necessities like food and water, medical assistance, but the evacuations are not only a physical upheaval but also an emotional one. As you can imagine, families are forced to leave behind their ancestral lands and the life they've known for generations.
Starting off this countdown, we have Andy and Daniel. Take a look at the people here and tell me that that is not Andy Samberg and Daniel Radcliffe. Don't see a resemblance? Well, take a look at them side by side. Bam! Someone discovered this photo. I'm assuming in like an old yearbook. I could be wrong, but then they uploaded it online. From there, thousands of people were liking and commenting on it, agreeing that they look an awful lot like those two actors. I mean, they're posing the exact same in everything. It's way too freaky. Like, did Harry Potter use a time turner to go back in time or what? Either that or those are the men's real fathers. I just can't stop staring at the photo, like it's too eerie. Coming in at number 9, we have Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is a well-known comedian and talk show host, and now, apparently time traveler. Take a look at this photo. The man on the left is Marxist revolutionary leader Mahir Khayyam. Mahir passed away in 1972. When was Jimmy born? September 1974. Just 2 years later. So either reincarnation is real or he's a time traveler. Maybe Jimmy felt like he needed to go back in time and try and make a difference in society. Or that's just his long lost family member. Coming in at number 8, we have Leonardo da Vinci. Famous painter Leonardo da Vinci is also believed to be a time traveler. In fact, a lot of people have said that he was ahead of his time. Maybe quite literally. Maybe he came from the future, you know what I'm saying? One theory is that he went back in time to steal other people's accomplishments or to help advance the world. This dude was a genius. He knew more things than anyone else did in that time period. For example, Da Vinci drew pictures of a helicopter in 1493, okay? That's hundreds of years before an actual helicopter was created. But not only that, he had the idea for an armored fighting vehicle, aka tanks. And he also invented the idea of a submarine. He talked about ships that could travel underwater, and even sketched designs of them. So Da Vinci somehow came up with all these modern day inventions and more. How? Because he's a time traveler. Boom, mic drop. In our 7th spot, we have Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin went back in time to become the 13th president of the United States, Millard Fillmore. I guess he was like, hey, if Donald Trump can do it, so can I. Let me just borrow this time machine real quick and go back in time and run for presidency. Or something like that. Like, come on, the two look so eerily similar in every photo. We need to get Ancestry DNA to do some research. Maybe they're related somewhere along the line. Or Alec Baldwin learned how to time travel. Coming in at number 6, we have Queen Latifah. Take a look at African-American novelist Zora Neale Hurston. A lot of people have noticed that she looks like Queen Latifah's twin. Seriously, the resemblance is crazy, especially since they both like wearing wide-brimmed hats. Coincidence? I think not. Hurston is said to be one of the most important black writers in all of American literature. She wrote a number of powerful pieces, including her most famous work, Their Eyes Were Watching God. A lot of people are now saying that Latifah should play Hurston in a movie about her life. I mean, it seems fitting. Or maybe Queen Latifah is a time traveler and then she would just end up playing herself in that movie, technically. It's crazy. They look so much alike. In our 5th spot today we have Nicolas Cage. There's a man from the 19th century that looks pretty similar to this Academy Award winning actor and America's national treasure. The photo was taken in 1870 and features a Tennessee man dressed in a snazzy outfit. The photo was found in the back of an album of death portraits. But did the man really die? Or did he just leave that time period and come back to this time period? Think about it. What's even crazier though is that this photo is currently being listed on eBay for $1 million. I don't know who would buy that, but it could be real photographic evidence that Nick Cage is a time traveler. Moving on to number 4, we have Justin Timberlake. American singer-songwriter Justin Timberlake is another celebrity believed to be a time traveler. Take a look at this photo of a man from the past. That is his doppelganger. Sadly, we don't know much about this mystery man. One post said that he was a criminal from back in the day, whereas another post said that he was a minor. I'm not sure. Maybe he was a criminal and a minor. A minor that, you know, committed crimes. Who knows? Why would Justin go back in time to be a minor or to commit crimes? Doesn't really make sense. Maybe he was just trying to bring sexy back. See what I did there? I just can't stop this feeling that he's a time traveler. It's almost like he goes around and comes around. Sorry, I'll stop with the puns, but seriously, this one is pretty freaky. Coming in at number 3, we have Jack Black. This one is honestly the funniest one on this list. You know, Jack Black is talented when he has a successful acting career currently, and also way back in the day in Italy. So this old Italian poster literally looks like it has Jack Black on the cover. Like, excuse me? They have the same facial expression and everything. Does that mean that Jack Black went back in time so he could be a famous actor in Italy, or what? Maybe this was his way to do research for one of the films he was in, you know, to like really get into character. Who knows at this point? Jack Black is a time traveler, okay? Moving on to number 2, we have Anne Hathaway. Okay, this is another really freaking trippy one. So people have pointed out that actress Anne Hathaway's husband looks a lot like William Shakespeare. Okay, I see the resemblance, they're correct, but guess what? William Shakespeare's wife's name was literally Anne Hathaway. Like, mind blow. Coincidence? I think not. Time travelers confirmed. I mean, she could have at least used a different name to make it less suspicious. Like, come on now. I'm just kidding. But either they both reincarnated and found each other again, or they're time travelers. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Donald Trump. Okay, buckle your seatbelts. I'm not even kidding when I say that Donald Trump might be a time traveler. Just wait until you see this evidence. Basically, someone discovered 2 books on the Office of Congress Library website. The books are called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and 1900, or The Last President. Both were written in the 1890s by Ingersoll Lockwood. Now, hold on one second. What's Donald Trump's son's name? Baron Trump, okay? But that's not the only spooky coincidence. The book Baron Trump is about a young boy who finds a secret portal and time travels. At one point in the book, he is guided by a man named Don, aka Donald, aka Donald Trump. And then in the book, The Last President, it's about an unlikely presidential candidate that won the election. Sound familiar? Even freakier, the book talks about the 5th Avenue Hotel. The address of the hotel in the book is the exact same address where Trump's tower currently stands. But wait, there's more. In this book, there's a character named Laugh Pence, who is the Secretary of Agriculture. Hello? The ex-vice president's name was Mike Pence. Come on guys, there's just too many similarities between the books and Donald Trump's life. So, people believe that this book was actually written about Trump and his family, all of whom are time travelers. Moving on to number 9, we have The Fight. A video of Mike Tyson's fight from 1995 went viral online for containing supposed proof of a time traveler. In the background of the video, you can see a man who appears to be recording or taking photos of the fight on an iPhone or another modern camera phone. The fight was in 1995 and camera phones were not sold until the 2000s. As a result, many people are convinced that the man in the audience is a time traveler, who I guess is a fan of Mike Tyson. What also tripped people out is the fact that the main cameras used in the 90s were the ones with the lenses in the middle. This camera is clearly lacking that. However, others believe that the man is not a time traveler and in fact was just taking a photo on a camera known as the Casio QV10A. Even though it's been potentially debunked, there are people out there that don't believe it for a second. In our 8th spot, we have the Mohawk Man. It's like, where's Waldo with these photos? Except you're looking for the person that doesn't belong. So this next image is apparently from 1905 and shows workers and a banana boat delivering goods. However, near the boat there appears to be someone standing there in a white t-shirt rocking a Mohawk style haircut, which is a very unusual haircut for that time period. The men in the photo are wearing suits and top hats and have fancy mustaches and look well dressed, whereas he's there in a plain t-shirt. Due to the fact that he looks out of place, people have pegged him as a time traveler. He kind of reminds me of Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver though. In our 7th spot, we have the hipster, another very popular photo that has been circulating online. So the photo contains a crowd of people in the 1940s at the reopening ceremony for the South Fork Bridge in British Columbia. Well, in this photo, everyone seems to be dressed up besides the man on the right hand side of the photo. Everyone else is in suits and top hats, and this tall man seems to be very out of place dressed like a hipster, hence why he was given that name. He can be seen sporting funky sunglasses, a graphic t-shirt, and of course is carrying a camera. Now, some believe that he is indeed a time traveler, whereas others have tried to debunk it. They claim that all the items he is seen wearing were available back in 1941 when the photo was taken. Either way, he looks pretty out of place. In our 6th spot, we have Greta Thunberg. I'm sure all of you have heard about Greta Thunberg, the young Swedish activist who is spreading the word about climate change. Well, there's a theory out there that Greta is actually a time traveler. This theory came to life after a photo of 3 children was uploaded to the internet. These children appeared to be at a gold mine on Dominion Creek in the Yukon. However, the one girl looks identical to Greta and is even wearing the same braided hairstyle. As a result, people believe that Greta is a time traveler sent from the future to save humanity before we completely destroy it. And then apparently she traveled back to 1898 to the Yukon before coming to the present moment. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the fence legend. So this one is more of a legend, but either way it makes for a good time traveling story. So legend goes that there was a 30-year-old man named Rudolph Fentz who was hit and injured by a New York taxi in the 1950s. His pockets contained a copper token for beer, a bill for the care of a horse, and a letter from 1876 among other unusual items. Turns out that this man was a person who disappeared in 1876 at the age of 29. Like I mentioned before, this is apparently a legend that originated from a 1951 short story book. But others believe that this is actually a cover-up, and that Rudolph Fentz was a real man who was a time traveler. Making our way down the list at number 4, we have the beach time traveler. What's something you would do if you could time travel? Maybe stop a tragedy from happening, save someone's life, or just chill at the beach getting some rays? Because that last one is exactly what this time traveler did. A photo from September 1943 apparently shows British factory workers enjoying their break on the beach during the midst of wartime. Everyone is seen wearing bathing suits that fit the era. But right in the middle of the photo is a man in a brown suit, who honestly looks like Mr. Bean. This dude is also checking something that looks like a phone. Some even say that he's checking his time travel device. People were really weirded out about this man because he sticks out like a sore thumb. As a result, he has been deemed a time traveler. Coming in our 3rd spot, we have the film extra. In this next situation, a woman time traveled to be an extra in a Charlie Chaplin film. Or so it appears that way. In the 1928 film, a woman who appears to be taking a phone call can be seen crossing the screen. The video was in the behind the scenes footage from Chaplin's film, The Circus. The woman is in a long black coat and is holding something to her ear, which she is speaking into. Of course, in 1928 there were no cell phones, so how is this possible? 2 words: time travel. However, Others believe that she is simply holding a hearing device to her ear, or that she's holding up her hand to shield her eyes from the sun. But that still doesn't explain why she appears to be talking to herself and holding the black rectangular object like a cell phone. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this one. In our second spot, we have the Canadian man. Now, this photo is pretty odd. The photo is over 100 years old and shows a bunch of dressed up Canadians chilling on a hill. Another Canadian time traveler. At first glance, everything appears to be normal, until you take a closer look. On the left side of the photo, there's a man on the hill that seems out of place. I mean, the men are dressed up in top hats and suits, and he's just chilling there in a t-shirt and shorts. In fact, the two men beside him are giving him a look like, who's this guy? As a result, people have referred to him as the surfing time traveler. Like seriously, he seems so out of place. But also, why would you choose that as your time traveling outfit? Like I'd pick something cool, like a leather jacket, you know, look all cool and edgy. And in our number one spot, we have the cell phone. Another time traveler caught using a cell phone. So if you're gonna go back in time, don't bring your phone. A film from 1938 shows a woman talking on a device that looks just like a cell phone. Again, how is that possible when the first mobile phone wasn't available to buy until around the 80s? After this video made headlines, a YouTube user came forward claiming that the lady in the video was her great-grandmother. She apparently asked her grandmother, whose name is Gertrude Smith, about the video, and she said that she really was using a cell phone. Apparently, the phones were a prototype developed by a communications factory in Massachusetts. Gertrude and 5 other women were given the phones to test out for a week. But it's still hard to believe that this company was way ahead of the times. When mobile phones were ready, they were big, not the small ones that fit comfortably in your hand as seen in the video. So it really does make us wonder, what's real and what's not? Honestly, it seems hard to believe, and Gertrude Smith seems like a made-up name. And it was never even confirmed if what this user said was true. So it may just be that time travel is real and Gertrude was not too sly and got caught in action.
In our number 10 spot, we have the woman on her cell phone. There is a painting by Ferdinand George Waldmüller from 1860 called The Expected One. This painting shows a woman walking through what appears to be a trail while holding an object which looks an awful lot like a cell phone. She also is seemingly transfixed by what she's looking at, similar to how people look at their cell phones when scrolling or sending a text today. People have looked at this painting and have perceived this woman as a possible time traveler, and hey, I see it. What else could that object be? What else could a woman of that time be holding? What could be as small as a cell phone and also something that she could be so focused on? I'm sure there are quite a few answers to this, but whatever. We are going to say that it's clearly a cell phone and she's clearly a time traveler. The end. If you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to smash that like button as it will really help us out. In our number 9 spot, we have actor Rupert Grint. There is a Scottish painter by the name of Sir David Wilkie who lived in the 18th and 19th centuries and whom looked very similar to a very famous actor today. Fans of Rupert Grint, who played the infamous Ron Weasley in the Harry Potter franchise, were shocked to see a portrait of David and how he looks extremely similar to Rupert. Could it be possible that Rupert is really just a time traveler who has traveled to this time to capture our hearts and souls on the screen? A lot of people think so, as you cannot deny that the two look quite similar. However, personally I think this is one painting I disagree with, as I don't think they look enough alike for this to be the same person. I know that some people share a theory that time travelers change certain features on their face so that they're not recognizable, but something makes me think that this theory is a bit of a stretch and truly isn't the same person. I don't know. If we were to believe that time travelers exist, of course. And we do. In our number 8 spot, we have Keanu Reeves. Okay, if I could get on board with any celebrity being a time traveler, it would definitely be Keanu Reeves because he is just magical. Do you agree? There's something about him that seemingly makes him likable to literally everyone on the planet. I truly wonder if there's anyone who dislikes him. So he is either magical or a time traveler, but that would also make him magical, so he's probably both. There is a very mysterious painting from the 1500s of a man that has a striking resemblance to Keanu Reeves. This painting has made its rounds online and has convinced a lot of people that he must be a time traveler. This is definitely one of the paintings on this list that truly feels like it could be real because of how similar Keanu looks to this man. The thing is though, Keanu seems to have a lot of people throughout history that looks like him, including King Charlemagne around 800 AD, as well as the 20th century French actor Paul Mountet. So it's because of all of these possible time traveler sightings that the internet is convinced that Keanu is immortal. And I'm here for it. I love him. In our number 7 spot, we have a man and his cell phone. Here we have yet another mysterious painting where this time a man is holding an object that is seemingly looking like a cell phone. I don't know. It looks like a cell phone. It seemingly is a cell phone. This is an oil painting made by a painter named Peter de Hooch from the year 1670. Some people have said that this man was a messenger and that it was a letter that holding not a phone, and that seems definitely more likely. However, this cell phone theory is way more fun. Imagine if people had cell phones in those days. They would have definitely been called witches, as this was around the time where the witch trials were taking place all around the world. So it's probably accurate to say that if he was holding a cell phone, he would have probably been more discreet about it, or maybe not. Perhaps he's a cheeky kind of guy and loves to play with fire. In any case, I personally think that it looks more like a phone that he's holding than a letter, so I'm gonna say this one is definitely a time traveler. In our number 6 spot, we have Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone has been trending online recently because people believe that he could be a potential time traveler. Why, you may ask? Well, it's because of a painting of a man called Pope Gregory IX approving the Vatican decretals. You have to admit, this guy looks like he is Sylvester Stallone. The resemblance is uncanny. If this is not Sylvester, then it has to be someone directly related to him by blood. Right? That is the only conclusion. Okay, but in all seriousness, if this guy is not related to him and this is not him, then this is a very good example of how it is possible to have a twin somewhere else in the world. Possibly on a different time frame, but it is still possible that someone else could exist in the history of the world that looks just like you. Such a cool thought. In our number 5 spot, we have Nicolas Cage. Okay guys, here is another one. Man, this list is actually kind of blowing my mind. There are way too many paintings that look exactly like famous actors. This one looks like actor Nicolas Cage. I am a massive fan of the National Treasure movies, so I definitely have a sweet spot for good old Nicolas. But also, he encouraged Johnny Depp to become an actor, so bless you, Nick. You gave us a gift we cannot ever repay you for. Anyways, there is a painting of a Mexican emperor, Maximiliano of Habsburgo, I hope I didn't butcher that, and Sir Nick looks like his doppelganger. But let's be real, he probably is. The only thing is people seem to say that Nick looks like he's a lot of people from different time periods, so honestly, who knows? He does have a very mysterious quality to him, so perhaps that is why people are quick to think that he might be, you know, a time traveler. In our number 4 spot, we have Jack Gleason. This is the only one on this list that is not a painting but just needed an honorable mention. Honestly, this was a hard list to research, so, you know, just love me. Jack Gleason, one of the stars of Game of Thrones that played the infamous Joffrey, looks surprisingly a lot like a statue of the Roman Emperor Caligula. Almost identical. If you have watched Game of Thrones, then you would know that his character is the king for a while, and what a terrible king he was. Perhaps he had some practice from once being a Roman emperor. Some say yes. This statue is too much like him that he must be a time traveler. Either that or he's immortal and he's been alive since this time. In our number 3 spot, we have Michael Jackson. This is a really interesting one. People think that it's possible that Michael Jackson was a time traveler. Okay, if Michael Jackson was a time traveler, then maybe he isn't actually dead and he just traveled to another time. Michael is known for being someone who loved art, so it's possible that he even styled one of his looks based off of a painting that weirdly looks like him, but truly it is rather strange that this painting really looks like him. Perhaps he actually traveled back in time in a time machine and someone painted him and that is how this painting exists? Ooh, what if instead of being dead, he's trapped in the painting? Like what happens in the movie The Witches, based on Roald Dahl's book. It's fun to imagine scenarios like this. Anyways, there's no denying the resemblance and the similarities in their fashion choices. Pretty strange. In our number 2 spot, we have Peter Dinklage. If you do not know who Peter Dinklage is, then I can only assume that you haven't viewed one of the greatest television series of all time, Game of Thrones. Oh, and also Elf. What a movie. Anyways, Peter is one of the most iconic stars from Game of Thrones. Probably the fan favorite, besides Arya, Sansa, Jon Snow. Okay, never mind, there were too many great characters. There is a painting of a man that looks just like Peter though. The painting is called The Portrait of Sebastian de Mora by a man named Diego Velázquez. It was painted between 1644 to 1645. It truly looks just like Peter, so I understand why people look at this painting and immediately think it's him. Is everyone a time traveler in Hollywood? It feels like yes. In our number 1 spot, we have Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, the creator of Facebook, has definitely been called a robot, an alien, a shapeshifter, and now I'm learning that people believe him to be a possible time traveler, and it is because of a painting of the King of Spain, Philip IX. The painting was said to have been done in 1624 by a man named Diego Velázquez. I may be butchering his name, but hey, I tried. He looks like an awful lot like Mark. Some same droopy eyes, long face, hair color, nose, and also possibly hair texture. Kinda hard to make out, but it looks like it. The only thing is, the king appears to have bigger lips, but who knows, maybe the artist did that. Or perhaps Mark had a lip reduction. Anyways, not sure I'm on board with this theory fully, but the robot theory might have some solid arguments.
And at number 4, Bangalore in India. Tucked away in the Alwar district in Rajasthan, Bangalore isn't your average town. It's famous, or perhaps infamous, for being one of the spookiest spots in the country. So the story goes like this. Supposedly, back in the 17th century, a sorcerer cast a curse on the village and things went downhill from there. The place was abandoned, and it's been a ghost town ever since. People who visit often say they feel this strange, unsettling vibe, especially after dark. Some even claim they've seen ghostly apparitions. Bangalore isn't your typical tourist spot, but it draws in thrill seekers and folks curious about the supernatural. Folks like me, I would absolutely love to check this place out. The town's got these, of course, old ruins, forts, temples, and houses just sitting there as if time stopped centuries ago. And speaking of time, they've got a rule: nobody's allowed in after sunset, because, you know, ghosts and demons and all that. Obviously hard to say if the place is genuinely haunted, but the legends surrounding the place and the deserted structures make it a magnet for those who, you know, love a good scare and dose of history at the same time. At our number 3 spot, let me take you to Ruby, Arizona. It's a real gem in the desert. Wish I could say that pun was not intended, but it was. Back in the early 20th century, this place was buzzing with life, all thanks to the copper mining boom. It was a kind of town where everybody knew everybody, and things were looking pretty good. But as they say, what goes up must come down, and the copper boom fizzled out, and by the mid-1900s, Ruby was nothing more than a ghost town. The folks moved on, and what they left behind is a piece of history stuck in time. Those that wander around Ruby today feel like they're stepping into a time capsule. There are houses, a school, a general store, all just sitting there as if the residents were there one second and gone the very next. A slice of life from another era preserved in the desert. What makes Ruby even cooler is its remote location. You're out there in the rugged desert and you can't help but feel a sense of isolation. As you can imagine, I've never been. That's probably why it's a magnet though for history buffs and folks who love exploring the past. And at our second place spot, we have Poveglia in Italy. This a small island off the coast of Italy, is known for being one of the most haunted places in the country. Poviglia's history is pretty dark. Back in the days of the bubonic plague, they used this entire island as a quarantine zone for the sick and dying, and thousands of people who were infected with the plague were shipped off here to keep the disease from spreading to the mainland. You can only imagine the horrors that went on. No surprise why this place is often referred to as the Island of Death. As if that's not creepy enough though, in 1922 there was a mental hospital built here. Rumor has it that some pretty messed up experiments were conducted on the patients too. Stories of mistreatment and suffering are enough to send a shiver down your spine, and today Poveglia is abandoned and it's said to be one of the most haunted places in Italy. Visitors have reported strange noises, ghostly apparitions, and an overall sense of dread when they set foot on the island. But considering its history, it's not very surprising. In fact, though, the Italian government has banned people from going there. You need special permission to even get close. Finally, though, we have Pripyat in the Ukraine. Probably the most famous abandoned town in history. Pripyat was once a bustling city, home to workers of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It was a typical Soviet-style town with apartment buildings, schools, all the amenities you'd expect in a thriving community. Life was humming along until that fateful day on April 26, 1986, when the Chernobyl disaster struck. There was a catastrophic explosion at the nuclear plant that released a massive amount of radioactive material into the atmosphere. Pripyat, being just a stone's throw away, was in the direct path of the destruction. The entire city was evacuated in a hurry, and its residents left behind their homes. Some of their belongings are still there. Even their pets were left behind, thinking at the time that they'd return soon, but they never did. And today, Pripyat is a complete ghost town. The abandoned buildings, the rusted playgrounds, the empty streets, that's all that remains. A time capsule of Soviet life in the 80s, but with a radioactive twist. Because yeah, the post-apocalyptic looking setting isn't creepy enough already. There are mutated animals that have been reported in the area too. Would definitely be a pretty surreal place to experience. Geiger counters click away as you walk through the eerily quiet streets. Nature's taken over with trees growing through apartment windows and wildlife returning to the area. Would you ever visit this place? I honestly think I would. If all the proper safety measures were in check, I think I'd have to.
Coming into number 10, we have W Man. What does the W stand for? William? Wallace? Women? Oaxaca? Oh, only our British audience will get this, but I really miss Oaxaca. Get me some sweet potato tacos immediately! Tacos probably weren't a thing in 1940s Canada when this picture was taken, although I bet Mr. W has eaten a few, because look at him, he's a blatant time traveler hipster. A lot of people dub this guy the time traveling hipster, and he does certainly look like he would be better placed working in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, or Ubisoft. The picture was taken at the opening of South Fork Bridge, but it got the world's attention in 2010 at a photo exhibit. The guy is wearing sunnies and looks like he is holding a far more modern DSLR camera. Sadly, it does turn out that the letter on his shirt is actually an M for the Montreal Maroons, who played in the NHL from 1924 to 1938. So that being said, he could just be trying to blend in. Although to be honest with you, the rest of him's pretty standout. What do you guys think? Is he a time traveler? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Coming into number 9, we have Charlie Chaplin's time traveling extra. Take a look at this footage from Charlie Chaplin's 1928 movie Circus. If this footage was from the modern day, the first thing you would notice is that it's in black and white. You wouldn't pay any attention to the woman who is clearly on her mobile phone in the background walking behind a zebra. But this is 1928 and cell phones won't be readily available for another 70 so years. Even the early cell phones of the 1980s were chunky. This woman is clearly time traveling from the future, and judging by the size of her phone, I would say from the next millennium. This time traveler is caught on camera all the time. We have Nicolas Cage at number 8. Fun fact, Nicolas Cage has the same birthday as me. Second fun fact, Did you know that the Academy Award and Golden Globe Award winning actor Nicolas Cage is indeed a time traveler? No? Well, he is. The actor uses a personally developed style of performance that he calls nouveau shamanic, which, I mean, sure. Maybe it's something that he's developed across the ages, as it seems that the film legend is indeed a time traveler. He's also fulfilled a lot of roles in history. Here he is as Mexican Emperor Maximilian I of Habsburgo, and here he is as an unidentified man from Bristol, Tennessee in 1870. The actor was forced to publicly deny it on Letterman. Spotted at the beach at number 7. So this picture here is a lovely snap of British war workers escaping the perils of their job for one much needed sunny day in 1943. The image was shared on Twitter and the poster was asking people to identify where the beach was. It turns out that the beach in question was Towan Beach in Cornwall, but more than the stretch of sand was identified here. It seemed that eagle-eyed viewers spotted a man on a smartphone in the middle of the picture. He could just be looking at something in his hand, but doesn't it look like he's on his phone? Honestly, to me it seems like he is so checking his phone. To me, it looks like he's just received a really confusing text from Bay and he's not sure how to respond. So phones feature heavily on this list, so do prepare yourself for more and even more shocking examples. But before we get to that, let me pose to you that Michael Jackson isn't actually dead, he's time traveling. Find out why I've drawn this conclusion at number 6. YouTube account Fact5 compiled a number of pictures that have shown the King of Pop popping up through history. So weird that this was never spotted until he died. It's like he's out there somewhere changing the future. Here's a painting of Michael from like, let's say the late 1700s, and then there's this Egyptian statue of him. Right. Roll up for another iPhone. This one comes 60 to 70ish years ahead of schedule. We have Henry Fonda's touchscreen at number 5. This clip is from the 1948 John Wayne movie Fort Apache, and there is a scene in which the character Lieutenant Colonel Owen Thursday, played by Henry Fonda, whips out his iPhone and goes over a list of names with his daughter Philadelphia, played by Shirley Temple. Check it out and tell me what you think. To me, he's holding that just like a slim iPhone X, although I feel like this is probably just a notebook. But it looks a lot like an iPhone. I don't know. What do you think? Coming into number 4, we have a time traveling car. This time traveling car has totally vexed the internet time and time again. This footage was allegedly caught on a Russian police officer's dash cam and features what can only be described as a time traveling car. Is that the DeLorean? The footage starts as the car is turning left. We can see the traffic at a standstill, and then on the right, all of a sudden a car comes from nowhere. Like, seriously, nowhere. It's definitely the Doctor and Marty McFly. Oh, wait, see, let me slow this down for you and you can watch again because this is so crazy. Like, where did it come from? Time traveling! Uploaded by Rose Adams on YouTube, this video has been watched over 1 million times, and by the looks of the comments, a lot of people are just as confused as me. Okay, the teleporting or time traveling car did have me pretty convinced. Factory worker at number 2. Watch out, here come the girls. This footage was shot in 1938 and is thought to be of factory workers leaving for the day. There they all are in their 1930s looking clothing, behaving as I would expect, until this lady comes along. Now to me she very much looks like she's holding an early 2000s flip phone. I remember those. So good. Something really satisfactory about flipping a phone. Seriously though, look at her. What else could she be doing? She seems to be engaging with the phone as if she's talking to someone, and she's smiling but not at the woman next to her. According to a video that Danny made earlier about time travelers, in 2013 a woman came forward in the comments section of the video to say that she was the great-granddaughter of this woman. She says her name was Gertrude. She said that Gertrude was actually part of a science and tech experiment to test a wireless phone, although, like, really, there isn't that much scientific evidence to back that up at all. And since then the comment section has been axed. What does this mean?
Starting off this countdown, we have the World Cup. During the 1962 FIFA World Cup, somebody captured a photo of the Brazilian team celebrating as they lift their trophy. But the photo captured more than just that. Towards the bottom of the photo, there's a man who appears to be taking a picture using a flip-style cell phone. Obviously, flip phones weren't a thing back then, so this has led people to believe that this guy is a time traveler, and obviously a fan of soccer. As a soccer player, I respect that. Now, it's quite weird that this time traveler would have a flip phone with them. Like, out of all devices, they chose to bring a flip phone back in time with them. On the other hand, people believe that the phone is actually just a film camera held at a weird angle, but Who knows? In our 9th spot, we have Nicolas Cage. Okay, some of you may know this, I know the true fans will, but I love Nicolas Cage. National Treasures, great movie, don't come at me. Well, Nicolas Cage is theorized to be a time traveler. That's right. He's the face of a meme, an actor, America's national treasure, and even a time traveler. What a great thing to be able to write on your resume. There's a photo of a man from the 19th century that looks pretty identical to this Academy Award winning actor. The photo was taken in 1870 and features a Tennessee man dressed in a snazzy outfit. The photo was found in the back of an album of death portraits. And this photo could be yours for $1 million. Seriously, that's how much it's listed for. But anyways, this photo might just prove that Nick Cage is a time traveler. In our 8th spot, we have the brass bell. In 1944, a 10-year-old boy by the name of Newton Anderson was shoveling coal into his furnace at his home when a piece of coal was dropped and broke in half. Inside the coal revealed a mysterious bell. Keep in mind that the coal was found to be 300 million years old. Back then, the dominant life form on Earth were insects. Not only that, but studies on the bell revealed that it was handmade. So it's physically impossible for a bell like that to have been manufactured back then. So this has led people to believe that a time traveler went back in time to that time period and dropped their bell while doing so. But who the heck carries a bell with them when they're going back in time? Like, that's not something that would be in my suitcase. Now, of course, people were skeptical. They thought that the boy lied and didn't find the bell in the coal. But he underwent a polygraph test conducted by a specialist who worked on death row cases. It was discovered that he was indeed telling the truth. So now the question is, who was the time traveler that dropped this on their mission? And what is the significance behind the bell? Moving on to number 7, we have the toothed wheel. A Russian man was using coal to heat his home when he realized something odd sticking out of it. Researchers stated that it looked like a toothed wheel. Testing of this object revealed that it was 98% aluminum and 2% magnesium. What's weird is humans didn't learn to make aluminum until 1825. But this coal piece is 300 million years old. And the tooth object appears to be artificially made. Again, how did a man-made object find its way in a 300 million year old piece of coal? Not only that, but the object resembles parts that are used in things like microscopes or electronic devices. Or maybe time machines. It could be that a time traveler went back to that time period and then a piece broke off of his time traveling device or something. In our 6th spot, we have the skater boy. Skateboarding was an activity that became increasingly popular during the mid-70s. But here's the thing. There's a photo of a well-dressed man boarding through New York's Central Park. The photo was taken back in the 1960s, when very few people were out skateboarding. In fact, it was very rare to see people skateboarding before the 70s because it was not a popular activity at all. And even when it did become popular, it took years before it was embraced as a real sport. So then, who is this man in a suit that is riding a board? He looks super out of place. This has led people to believe that he is a time traveler from the future that clearly likes skateboarding as his method of transportation. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with John Titor. John Titor is a supposed time traveler from the year 2036 on a military mission. He first made his appearance on the internet in the 2000s on online forums. He would post about predictions or share stories from the future. The reason for him traveling back in time is so that he can get an IBM 5100, which apparently had a secret function that could translate anything to any language. I have no clue why he needed it, but he did. On the forums, John also posted grainy photos of the time machine and of the military logo from the future. In 2001, John disappeared from online and was never heard from again. So some people believe that he is a real time traveler. Maybe he made it back home, or maybe something else happened to him. In our 4th spot, we have Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was a painter, sculptor, inventor, engineer, and architect during the Renaissance. However, he's probably most famous for his painting, the Mona Lisa. Well, believe it or not, but Da Vinci is thought to be a time traveler. Hear me out, okay? Leonardo da Vinci was often considered way ahead of his time. Well, maybe this is quite literally, since he's thought to have come from the future. One theory is that he went back in time to steal others' accomplishments or to help advance the world. This dude was a genius. He knew more things than anyone else did in that time period. For example, Da Vinci drew pictures of a helicopter in 1493. That's around 450 years before an actual helicopter was created. But not only that, he had the idea for an armored fighting vehicle, aka tanks. And he also invented the idea of a submarine. He talked about ships that could travel underwater and even sketched designs of them. So Da Vinci somehow came up with all of these modern day inventions and more. How? Because he's a time traveler. Making our way down the list at number 3, we have the self-proclaimed traveler. Over the years, a number of people have come forward claiming that they are time travelers from the future, which is the case for this next man. A couple of years ago, an older Greek man came forward saying that he traveled in time to the year 3207. Of course, during his interview, he had his identity hidden for safety reasons. His face was blurred out and his voice was distorted. Now, he claims that he was shot forward in time and spent 2 days in the year 3207 as part of a top secret military program. He claims that in the future the buildings were massive, triple the size that they are today. He also says that there were flying cars and that there was strange colored grass. It wasn't green, but he said it was a deep purple. And lastly, he says that aliens, humans, big animals, and robots all were walking together down the street. And that seems like a pretty crazy future. And why is the grass purple? Like, what kind of environmental mutation happened there? I don't even want to know. Coming in at number 2, we have Paul Dinick. In 1921, a man named Paul Dinick, a Swiss-Australian teacher, slipped into a coma for about a year. For that year, he claimed that he went to the year 3096, where he switched consciousness with a man named Andrew Northman. 1 minute, he was in a coma. Next, he's inside Andrew's body speaking a foreign language. For that year, he was living as Andrew. Friends of Andrew even noticed his personality changed. Paul was so scared to tell anyone of his experience, so he wrote it in his diary and kept it a secret. However, just before he passed away, he gave his diary to one of his students to translate. And that's when it was revealed that he had somehow time traveled to the future. And in our number 1 spot, we have Donald Trump. This has to be one of the creepiest theories out there. So, theory goes that Donald Trump and his son Barron Trump are both time travelers from the future. Theory goes that Trump traveled back in time to become the ruler of America. Now, here's the thing. These theories arise after someone discovered 2 books on the Office of Congress Library website. The books are called Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and 1900 or The Last President. Both were written in the 1890s by Ingersoll Lockwood. The book Barron Trump is about a young boy who finds a secret portal and time travels. Both books have eerie connections to Donald Trump and his family. First off, the book is called Barron Trump, and Barron Trump is the name of Donald Trump's son. There are way more freaky coincidences though. Like how at one point in the book he was guided by a man named Don, aka Donald Trump. And then in the book The Last President, it's about an unlikely presidential candidate that won the election. Sound familiar? Even freakier, the book talks about the 5th Avenue Hotel, and the address of the hotel in the book is the exact address where Trump's tower currently stands. Hold on, it gets creepier. In the book, there is a character named Laugh Pence, who is the Secretary of Agriculture. Come on, like hello, the Vice President's name is Mike Pence. There's just too many similarities between the books and Donald Trump's life, so people believe that this book was actually written about Trump and his family.
And at number 10, we have Matt Groening. This is a classic one. Everyone thinks that the creator of The Simpsons might be a time traveler. Wait, what? Why would some people think that the creator of a show would possess some sort of superpower? Well, unless you've been living under a log, you would know that The Simpsons have been able to predict the future several times. Everything from three-eyed fish being discovered to the coronavirus to Donald Trump becoming president. It would seem like the show has a strange knack for looking into the future. They even got the ending of Game of Thrones figured out. Now, what this is probably just like dumb luck or just freaky coincidences, because The Simpsons has been on for so long and is constantly doing social commentary, so it would only be a matter of time before they figured things out. But what if he did actually come from the future and that is how he gets inspiration for his show? Or he has a link to the future that is telling him what might happen so he can work it into the show. Either way, I mean, you gotta admit, those coincidences are pretty freaky.
Coming in at number 9, we have Wim Hof. You might not know this guy, but you definitely should. Some of you might know him as his nickname, the Iceman. But Wim Hof is the man who unlocked some special ability within all of us. Through breathing exercises and some cold therapy, he has been able to take on temperatures that would kill most people in seconds. He also has been able to fight off harmful infections and keep any sort of sickness at bay. Not only that, but he has taught these techniques to people all over the world. He has consistently claimed that he isn't special and that anyone can do this. But here's the thing, this apparently is a technique that has been used for thousands of years. It was just forgotten to our time and people. So did Wim Hof just rediscover something that was lost? Or did he travel from the past to the future to make sure that we never lost this amazing skill that he has been doing forever because he is a Time Lord?
I'm gonna go with the Time Lord option. And at number 8, we have Jennifer Aniston. Here's one that's not like she has some sort of special knowledge, but let's just get real for a second. If you take a picture of Jennifer Aniston when she's 19 and a picture of her when she's 50, it looks pretty much the same. Either this lady is a Time Lord that has the ability to stop herself from aging because she can bend space and time around herself and become forever young, or she has more money than God and she's spending it on keeping her body young forever. Honestly, it's for sure the second one, because she was on one of the most successful sitcoms of all time and then became one of the biggest stars in the whole world, so she for sure has the money to spend on staying fit and young. Also, not worrying about money is great for your stress, which would help you not look old. But it's more fun to speculate that she's come from the future or past or both, I guess.
Coming in at number 7, we have Taylor Swift. People love to gossip about Miss Swift. I mean, she kind of deserves it because it seems like she's a massive liar and is super snaky when no one's looking, but at the same time, we shouldn't give that much attention to pop stars because there are way more important things to pay attention to. But one of the things that people got on Miss Swift about was the speculation that she was a time traveler. A lot of people think that she's actually Xena Lavey, who was a somewhat famous Satanist from the past who looks just like Taylor Swift. People say that she wasn't getting much traction as a Satanist back in the 80s, so she found a way to travel through time, make herself look younger, and then become a massive celebrity with her Time Lord abilities, and now with her position of power, she's going to take over the world with Satanism.
Alright, sliding into number 6 here, we have Will Smith. Back on the point about someone looking young forever, we have Will Smith, who has been gliding through life as one of the most successful stars who's ever lived, but at the same time, it's been a hot minute since this guy's had a hit movie. How can you be rich and famous for so long without making a solid movie in over a decade? Well, that could be because he has been able to work his way through Hollywood and into the ranks of the elite by becoming a Time Lord and selling knowledge of the future. This has to be the answer, obviously. It's not because he's a crazy hard worker and is apparently one of the nicest people you'll ever meet and is extremely supportive of the people around him and is actually a good actor even though not all of his movies are bangers. No way, the answer has to be Time Lord, and it is for sure that he is confirmed Illuminati.
Coming in at number 5, we have David Blaine. There is no way that you are standing on top of a pole for 3 days, getting locked in ice, and holding your breath until you break the breath hold record, and okay, the balloon thing was kinda lame, but all those other things were way cooler. But can we say that he has some ability to master his body and push himself to levels that no one has ever seen before? That he has gone out of his way to master sleight of hand and become one of the best magicians of all time? Or could we say that this dude is for sure a Time Lord who has been using his abilities to capture the minds of people around him and make us all think that he's some sort of weird dude? No way, man. The reason that he seems so strange is because he's from the year 3000 and he now has a watch that lets him blast back in time and pull off a bunch of crazy stunts. I'm just saying that when this dude dies, you're gonna want to check through all his pockets because he might have a device that can help you blast through time.
At number 4 on this list, we have Joe Exotic. Just looking at the way this guy's dressing and his haircut, I would have to say that he's from a different time. Like, for sure. I mean, he is from Kansas. I've never been there, so is that just what everyone looks like in Kansas? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if that's the truth. It's probably not. Also, where is this dude getting all these tigers from, man? I would like to think that he's breeding them and selling them, but here's more than a logical idea. Wormhole. This guy has been pulling tigers from the past to the future through a wormhole, and he's actually doing this so tigers never go extinct, which is a very noble task. But he should change his wardrobe because it is too easy for people to tell that he is a time traveler when he looks like that. I don't think we have an Illuminati confirmation on him yet, but I am working on it. I've got all my best men on this case.
Coming in at number 3, we have Bruce Lee. I mean, the man came out of nowhere. He was able to master kung fu and other martial arts. He showed the world how to do crazy things with your body and be a human weapon. His hands were registered as lethal weapons. He has one of the most badass quotes of all time. He became one of the biggest movie stars of all time. He changed a decade, was one of the healthiest people who ever lived, and then just died out of nowhere from taking some sort of weird medication. I mean, there is a ton of speculation as to what happened to Bruce Lee. We could spend hours just going through all the conspiracy theories, but how about this one? This dude was a Time Lord who just came back in time to shake things up, become famous, be cool, and then bounced out of nowhere to a different timeline where he could be a legend again.
At number 2 on our list, I feel like I clap every time. Vladimir Putin. I mean, out of everyone on this list so far, this is probably the least shocking. As a kid, he apparently went to the KGB office and told them that he wanted to join, and they told him that no one does this, please leave. And then he spent his life becoming qualified until they accepted him, and then he became the supreme overlord of Russia. So yeah, this dude seems like he knows a thing or two about the future. Also, there's this picture. Is it a coincidence that all of the people lined up who look like Putin are in the army? I don't think so. This dude has been a Time Lord fighting in wars for centuries. Okay.
And coming into the number 1 spot, we have Zendaya and Halle Berry. Time Lord works, man. They are in the present timeline so that you can't figure out who they are. But just look at a side-by-side picture of these two. Zendaya looks like she could be Halle Berry's daughter, and maybe there is a relation, but I'm gonna put on my speculation hat and we're going to say that they're the exact same person. One famous light-skinned black woman moves out of Hollywood and then the next one moves in. They are in a time loop as we speak, crossing over the younger version so we never suspect anything when Halle Berry passes, but she already sent the younger version of herself into the past so she never has to die, and when the older version dies, all of her thoughts will be transferred into the younger version. I mean, it's right in front of you guys. How can you not see this?
In our number 6 spot today, we have Pecos, New Mexico. This quiet village nestled among pine forests just out of Santa Fe is a charming spot that you'd never really suspect holds a dark mystery. In 1998, 71-year-old Emma Tresp was driving along County Road 63A, ominously dubbed Camino del Diablo by locals, en route to a retreat at a nearby Benedictine monastery. Unfortunately, she never arrived. Days later, her car was found wrecked with her belongings, including her cell phone, still inside. Even more puzzling were the footprints believed to be hers circling the car but leading nowhere else. Emma had vanished without a trace. Theories, of course, began to swirl. Did she fall victim to the unforgiving terrain? Was foul play involved? Or did something supernatural occur, like a UFO encounter or stepping through a portal to another dimension? We can't really rule anything out at this point. Apparently, this was just one disappearance that added to a long list of many that make this a creepy place that just might be cursed. In our number 5 spot today, we have Lake Anjikuni Village in Canada. One of the most perplexing tales among cursed towns where people keep disappearing is the legend of the Anjikuni Village here in Canada. In 1930, fur trapper Joe LaBelle arrived at this remote Inuit settlement near Anjikuni Lake in Nunavut. Expecting the usual warm welcome, he instead found the village eerily deserted. Homes abandoned with meals still cooking over fires, personal belongings left behind, and unfinished sewing projects with needles still in place. Outside, he discovered 7 sled dogs who sadly passed away from starvation, and unsettlingly, nearby graves had been emptied. LaBelle alerted the authorities, but despite extensive searches, no trace of the villagers was ever found. Some accounts mention strange, unexplained lights flickering over the horizon citizen around the time of the disappearance. While the Royal Canadian Mounted Police later dismissed the story as a myth, noting that such a large settlement was unlikely in that remote area, the mystery endures to this day. Did an entire community vanish into thin air, or is this just a haunting legend born from the vast and rugged Canadian wilderness? In our number 4 spot today, we have Pyramid Lake in Nevada. Pyramid Lake might seem like a desert paradise with its striking triangular rock formation jutting from deep blue waters, drawing tourists for swimming, kayaking, and hiking, but this serene spot holds a chilling legend that earns it a place among the top cursed towns where people keep disappearing. Local lore tells of the lake being haunted by the spirits of unwanted children, now said to pull unsuspecting fishermen to their doom. Every year, new stories surface of people who have vanished or drowned in its depths, like in 2016 when 2 fishermen disappeared without a trace. To add to the mystery, some bodies lost in Pyramid Lake have reportedly turned up 61 miles away in Lake Tahoe, sparking theories of a hidden underground waterway connecting the 2 lakes. With an unknown number of missing people, possibly ranging from dozens to hundreds, Pyramid Lake blurs the line between natural beauty and supernatural menace. In our number 3 spot today, we have Horror Verde in Brazil. Among the most chilling tales of cursed towns is the legend of Horror Verde, a Brazilian village that allegedly vanished without a trace in 1923. Visitors arriving at the town were met with an eerie silence. Houses stood open with belongings left behind, but not a single resident was in sight. The only clue was a haunting message scrawled on the school blackboard: "There is no salvation." A recently used firearm was discovered, yet there were no signs of violence or where the 600 inhabitants had gone. Some speculate that political turmoil led to a mass evacuation, while others whisper of more mysterious forces at play. Considering concrete evidence is scarce and the story remains part of local folklore, what really happened to this vanished town remains one of the great unsolved mysteries. In our number 2 spot today, we are talking about the Lost Battalion of the Dardanelles. A little different than some of the others on this list today, one of the most haunting tales among cursed places is the legend of the Lost Battalion during World War I. In 1915, amid the chaos of the Gallipoli campaign, soldiers from the British 5th Norfolk Regiment reportedly vanished without a trace. Stories circulated that they marched into a mysterious mist on the battlefield and simply disappeared, leaving no bodies or equipment behind. This eerie absence fueled rumors of supernatural forces at play. Some even speculated that they were swallowed by the earth or taken to another dimension, while later investigations found remains and concluded that the soldiers were likely killed in action. The initial lack of evidence turned their fate into a chilling mystery. And finally, to end off, in our number 1 spot, we have the Sargasso Sea. The Sargasso Sea is truly one of a kind, tucked in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean. It's the only sea without any shorelines, bounded by 4 ocean currents forming a colossal gyre. Its waters are dotted with massive mats of sargassum seaweed, covering about 1/3 of its surface. Near its western fringes lies the notorious Bermuda Triangle, but the Sargasso Sea has its own chilling tales. Known as the graveyard of ships and the sea of the lost ships, it's been the site of countless stories of phantom vessels wandering aimlessly without crews. Famous ships like the French vessel Rosalie, the American schooner Ellen Austin, and the SS Connemara are among the most well-known mysteries. From the 1960s through the 1980s, many other unnamed boats and yachts were found drifting alone. Some accounts even speak of ships discovered with only the skeletal remains of their crew on board.